It runs from 5 to 6:30 at the, next to the planetarium. The, it's organized with the police and firefighters to hand out treats from the trunks of their vehicles. So I encourage you to make that known around town and to attend. And also, it's your opportunity to, if you're so inclined, to dress up and really be part of the festivities. But anyway, I wanted to encourage everybody to attend. I also wanted to make everyone aware of the flu shot clinic. It's posted, and it's posted on the website, but if you're not aware, flu shot clinic is October 26th here at Town Hall from 12 to 3 p.m. when the county will be here with nurses to administer flu shots. And
They have high dosage flu shots?
Yes, yes. They did last year, and I assume that they will this year. Yeah, and make sure that you bring your insurance card and identification.
If anybody misses it, I know the local drugstores are providing flu shots. Walgreens has a walk-in thing with a high dosage shot. Also, with your insurance information, there's no charge. So,
It depends on your insurance, because there was a charge for me.
Really?
Yeah.
change your insurance there.
That means you have insurance.
Oh, it's,
Maybe you're not old enough to get insurance.
that's a problem. That's a problem.
Maybe he's too old, is it?
I really, it's not as bad as I made it sound. It's that with some insurances, they won't accept the insurance coverage to administer it. You have to pay it and then seek reimbursement from your insurance company. But in any event, it depends on who your carrier is. We have scheduled a public hearing on the UDO for November 21st, and that's the second meeting in November. We have Councilman Serrato will not be here. We have a time problem with no public notification because we need a 30-day notification. Is there any way we can work around that date? From what I understand, Councilman Serrato is going to be away from the 15th to.
We're talking about the hearing on the
public hearing on
building
the UDO.
inspector?
No, the public hearing on,
which
I'm
one?
not sorry, not UDO, I'm wrong. It's the Campbell Land Use Plan.
Okay, so we've been through this. Rich, do you have any problem with us
No,
going
With-
ahead with that?
with the camera land
Yeah.
use plan, no.
Okay.
Even though you're not going to be here.
Yes.
Okay, all right, then there's not, that's not a
I
problem.
mean, we've been through that, yes.
Okay. There is, I do have an adjustment in the agenda in that the auditors are not here yet, so obviously we're not going to proceed with that at this time. We will when they get here. And would like to proceed with the shoreline management pre-dredging update.
But I appreciate the opportunity to be here, talking about the pre-dredge analysis and the dredging analysis. Is this?
I know that that's on.
I think now it's on. Here we
It's
go.
on.
So I want to talk about the pre-dredge analysis and give, the main reason I'm here today is to talk about the disposal fee. We've had a meeting with a property owner, and we just, hey, all right. Talk about the conversation we've had with the Upland property owner for use of the disposal islands, and then more so than that, I want to give an update on the overall project status. But, and let you know where we are with the permitting for the maintenance areas, which is Turtles and Mary's Creek, the feeder canal in the Bay Area, as well as the overall, the Jinks Creek dredging, which would be the shellfish survey is the main item for that. And then the third agency coordination meeting, the coordination, kind of lining that meeting up. But So I have 8 quick slides, and don't expect to take very long in this. But so with the disposal islands, we've identified 2 disposal islands on the Intercoastal Waterway. These are for the non-beach compatible material coming out of not only Jinks Creek, but mostly the maintenance areas, Turtles and Mary's Creek, as well as the feeder canal in the Bay Area. So all of that material is about 111,000, 112,000 cubic yards total, inclusive of the Jinks Creek dredging, that would go into one of these islands. We don't expect to use both of them, but we have identified 2 at this point and moving forward, just so that we have those kind of in our pocket, but we'd only expect to use one. But those 2 islands are the ones closest to the project, closest to Jinks Creek, referenced as 310 and 311. The islands are generally managed by the Corps of Engineers. However, the Corps, they're owned by a private property owner and managed by the Corps of Engineers. However, the Corps is getting out of the business of leasing those out to the public. And so we are dealing strictly with the property owner. We met with the property owner back in September, I guess September 19th. He proposed a fee of $5.75 per cubic yard that he would charge us to use those islands, to place that material there. That's pretty consistent with the Corps guidance. If the Corps was to manage this, they mandate a $5 per cubic yard fee. There are, again, similar to the Corps process, if the town decides to use these islands, the upland property owner would be held harmless for anything and everything that could possibly go wrong. He would also not be responsible for compliance with any permit conditions. And then the town would also be responsible for making any improvements to that island so that they could be used, and that would include dike improvements, removing that vegetation, and installing an outfall structure. So there's significant improvements that would be required before we use them, and then we would be used to, it would be $5.75 a cubic yard, measured by the survey in the water. So that whatever yardage we pay the dredge contractor to remove is the same yardage we pay the upland property owner to place the material there. And so that it makes it kind of simple in that fact. But so that is for the town's consideration if they want to move forward in that direction. We have also asked Bird Island if we could use that island, use their island. I do not expect that they will. Well, we've asked the question. We have not had a reply yet, but we are in those negotiations, or discussions. But if we move forward with this, with the upland property owners, Island 311 and 310 that are identified and we're talking about today, we could see the price to be somewhere between 500,000 and 650,000 cubic yards. We would plan for the higher number, dollars, yes, excuse me, $641,000 to place all the material there, inclusive of Jinks Creek and the maintenance areas. That would just be the sum to place material there. That would not cover any cost to dredge.
Do you want to finish before we ask questions, or what are you most comfortable with?
Yeah, let me run through. I just got 8 slides. We get through this one, and the rest goes pretty quick. They're just updates, but so that is for the council's consideration. The price would be somewhere between $500,000 and $650,000. So moving forward, just to go through the rest of it, want to give an update on where we are for the permitting process. As soon the outstanding part for submitting the permit for the maintenance areas is to define where do we put the non-compatible material. Where are we going to put the dredge material? The rest of the documentation is pretty well complete. We have the EFH, the Essential Fish Habitat, and the biological assessment. The biological assessment is the only one that's not complete now. We had some last-minute drafts for that. Otherwise, as soon as those all are complete, we will provide those to you. The historic preservation, the cultural review has been completed. That was more or less a letter. And then the CAM application, what we're lacking again is just where are we going to put the material once we dredge it. Once we get those complete, we'll submit, and it's a fairly quick process after we decide where to put that material. So then that takes us through the permitting process. Again, all we lack for the permitting for the maintenance areas. The Jinks Creek Shellfish Survey, very quickly, we finished the field work in October. We don't have those results quite yet. I thought we would by today, but just looking at it, we know that there will be mitigation. There will be mitigation required for that area, mainly the northern about 1,200 feet. There are oysters within that area that we will be impacting, and there will be mitigation required for that. The rest of it, we think we can get around. We can avoid the oysters. The clams are not so much of a resource that we will need to take precautions in the impacts that we create for the clams, but the oysters have been identified by the agencies as the main concern. And in the northern 1,200 feet, we cannot avoid that dredging through there. So we'll have that. I'll be happy to come back, and once we have that report, we'll have it by the end of the month. We'll circulate that for the agencies, and once the agencies have a chance to comment on it and review it, will be the determining factor. Their comments will determine if we need a third coordination meeting. The last coordination meetings, we talked about if we can handle this by email and not actually come back and meet unless we can be productive. If the meeting's not going to be productive and actually have good discussions, then we're just going to do it over email. The last meeting, we kind of sat around and didn't accomplish much, and so we want to make that more effective in the future. So that is really the discussion. And again, the main point is to talk about the disposal fee and the $5.75 per yard proposed by the upland property owner, and allow the council to discuss, to think about that. Now open up for questions, and yes, sir.
Neil, thank you. A couple of questions. Are we allowed, will the agencies allow us to dispose of beach-compatible dredge material at the disposal sites? Or do we have to do something, I don't know how to phrase it, more productive with that?
Yes, they allow us to place beach-compatible material in the disposal islands. They would prefer that we place the beach-compatible material somewhere separate so that it can be redredged later or recovered later. It's sort of stockpiling. Quite frequently, they'll stockpile beach-compatible material on the islands so that they can come back later when a nourishment is needed or warranted, and they'll have that material ready for use. If we mix beach-compatible and non-beach-compatible material, then we can come back later and recover, but our costs increase dramatically.
If we were to separate and stockpile the beach-compatible material on a storage site, is there an economic advantage down in the future to the town? Would the town still maintain ownership of that? Would we be able to resell it? Would there be any financial advantage to us?
No, once it's placed on the island, it becomes more or less open to anyone who pulls a permit for it. Actually, even now in the water, it's open to anyone who pulls a permit for it. So,
So Neil, you're saying the landowner of that property is going to get $600,000 plus from us, and they can turn around and sell it to someone else and make it profitable?
I'm not sure they could sell it to someone else. Someone else could pull the permit for it, and then they could, I guess they could negotiate use for it. So I guess it could be sold. But yes, that's, I guess, yes, that's a potential.
Go ahead.
When we talk about, you mentioned a very sensitive term, you said Bird Island. And I'm sure it's going to be misunderstood by caring citizens that you were talking about disposal location and Bird Island in the same sentence. You certainly don't mean the Bird Island that we know and love as Bird Island.
Correct. No,
You're talking about a disposal site that happens to be in that area and is referred to as a Bird Island disposal site.
yes, it is. It is.
Thank you for clarifying that.
It is managed by the state, by the Park Service. It is actually, if I can, I'm going to go over here and point to the island that we're talking about, but it's on the back side. It's this island here. So it is a disposal island.
We call it Goat Island.
Goat Island.
Yeah, and there used to be goats on. It's still there? I haven't seen them forever.
So it is managed. It's not. It is owned. I should say it is owned by the Bird Island Preserve. That's not the correct name, but
If the Corps of Engineers is getting out of the disposal site business, is that a fair statement?
their policy is changing. Yes, their policy is changing.
And we have that's private property there. But am I correct in assuming that the disposal process to those two sites in order to make them compatible with receipt of our dredge material, that's going to be managed by Corps of Engineers standards, and it's not going to be managed by the property owners themselves.
Correct.
Okay. So
And
the Corps would still have a hand in this, but at arm's length.
yes,
Now,
it's
you
the,
said they're I'm sorry.
Wait.
No,
They're changing their policy. Have they already changed the policy, or could we still, I like their $5 fee better than the $5.75.
they are no longer offering easements. Or they are currently not offering easements. Perhaps in
They
the
are not
future they
doing that.
change, but they are
Okay.
not offering easements at this
Now,
time.
if we put it on Bird Island or Goat Island, is there a fee to that? And
That's
who would
up to-
get that fee?
That's
The
up
Bird
to the
Island
Park
people?
Service. Yeah, that's up to the Bird
it's
Island
not
people.
negotiated yet. So
But see, I'd rather give it to the Bird Island people if they want to
it's going
accept
to
it.
be more expensive to go there, though. That's a farther throw for the dredge material. Is that true?
It is a little bit further, and I mean, I'm not optimistic that the Park Services will accept it, but we're gonna ask that, we have asked that question. But,
One last question, well, I hope it's my last question, I think it is. At the scoping meeting that Mark and I attended with you, and Susan, and all the alphabet agencies, a few months ago, one of the agencies,
I apologize. One of the agencies commented, very unclearly, but they commented that they wanted the town, through you, to come back with alternate ideas for dredging, for boat access. And I looked at that and I said, what do they expect us to do? Just to have airboats or something? Where is that? That to me was a curveball. But is that still a item of discussion? Have you provided alternate ideas, concepts other than dredging?
that's, if the project were to go through an EIS, environmental impact statement, we would need to propose alternatives, dredge alternatives. And for this project, the alternative is you come through Jinks Creek or you come through Tubbs Inlet. Those are their alternatives. In order to provide and maintain long-term access, those are the, excuse me, those are the access points. Tubbs Inlet's out because it's the cost effectiveness and the issues that are concerned with that. It is not the preferred alternative. We can analyze that very quickly, and we did in the monitoring analysis, in the modeling analysis. We gave a quick review of that. So our preferred alternative. So yes, we have given other alternatives. They may say come through behind Ocean Isle Beach. However, that is a primary nursery area and unable to dredge that. My understanding. So that may be the only other item that we would need to discuss is the area coming through behind Ocean Isle Beach. And if that's a primary nursery area, then dredging is strongly discouraged. They would direct us, we would therefore be back at Jinks Creek. So yes, we can handle that very quickly. If it's not documented to their satisfaction, we can definitely do that very quickly.
Neil, when do you think you'll get final approval for the north side of Jinks Creek, if you get approval?
Well, that's going to come with this, the shellfish survey is the point that's, we're
Which
going to
should
have.
be done shortly, you said, right? By the next meeting?
Yes.
Neil,
Or
December meeting?
the shellfish survey we'll have by the end of this month. We'll circulate that, and so we're hoping to have the coordination meeting in November, and the results of that coordination meeting or discussion would be the path for permitting all of Jinks Creek, and then having that path for permitting, we'll know if we'll need an EIS or just if the standard an individual permit, an EIS, or what could take. So it could be anywhere between 12 months and 10 years.
Neil, why don't we just simply take if there is beach compatible sand, depending upon the scope that actually gets permitted in the areas that get permitted for dredging, if at all, why don't we just take that beach compatible material and deposit it on Sunset Beach? Why don't we just create dunes? This may be very naive, but there certainly is areas east of Palm Cove that is still town property. And I realize that footprint of sand, particularly at low tide, on the very extreme east end of our town is part of Ocean Isle Beach. It's not part of Sunset Beach because of the way Tubbs Inlet has migrated to the east over time. But there still is area there that belongs to Sunset Beach. Why can't we just create dunes there?
You know, Pete, it's not that easy a solution. When dunes form, they tend to form back to front.
No,
Sometimes when you're creating frontal dunes, you're killing the dune structure behind it.
Yeah, but it's all,
That's my
I'm talking about
understanding.
in a barren area. I'm not talking about covering any existing grasses, but I think Susan may have an answer here. She raised her hand.
No, I don't have an answer. I have a question as far as a point of clarification. You're not talking about town-owned property. You're talking about private property?
No, I'm talking about town-owned property.
There's no town-owned property east of Palm Cove.
So Palm Cove is the far extreme limit, that private property is extreme limit of the bounties, the Mets and bounds of Sunset Beach.
There is no town-owned
What
property
about the beach?
east of Palm Cove. That's not town,
That's, what, public access, state-owned,
state.
Yeah.
federally owned?
If, and let me go back to a question, the subject that Councilman Larkin started on, and then we got interrupted. It's my understanding that the agencies, the permitting agencies, some if not all, were down, and you and they examined the area, and they examined Tubbs Inlet, and so they have been on site and made their own analysis and determinations of accessibility.
Yes.
So it's not just dependent on you saying something to them or making a proposal. They've been down here and looked at it,
Correct.
and they agree.
Yes.
Okay.
NOAA has vocally stated that they support the project if we manage it correctly.
All right,
That's a
now,
big if.
The second thing is, put Palm Cove, that location, out of the picture. As an overall concept, is there anything that would prohibit the use of that sand anywhere on the island in Sunset Beach?
No, if we can define a need for it on the beach, then it's definitely applicable to go on Sunset Beach or Ocean Isle Beach. I mean, it was only proposed for Ocean Isle Beach as a cost-sharing measure.
Okay. I have two more questions. One is, the price of the disposal of non-compatible stuff, is that included in our original considerations?
The $5 a yard was in our estimate. I mean, it's,
Okay.
no, $5.75 was not. no.
Okay, but a good portion of it was.
Yes.
The second question was, from what you said, my understanding was, and correct me where I'm wrong, because I'm sure I'm probably wrong, the only thing that's needed for the permit is the disposal information, the shellfish survey, and that should be completed by the end of the month.
Well, for the permit for the maintenance areas, and I'm calling the maintenance, Turtles Creek, Mary's Creek, the feeder canal, and finger canals in the Bay Area, that permit can be submitted by the end of the month. And so we could have that back by late January, early February. We could have authorization to dredge those areas by February.
How long is that permit?
It's a 3-year permit that's extendable by letter, so it would be a,
Help me out if you can. Not only continue. I'm not only concerned about the current dilemma, but I'm also concerned about when we go through maintenance dredging. Now, my first question is, I thought hummocks were owned by the state, but I don't know if that's an issue or not, or could be an issue.
What's owned by the state?
Hummocks.
He's talking about the
hummocks owned by the
disposal, you're
state?
talking about the disposal areas?
Yes. Secondly, this would be the non-contaminated, is that correct?
that material, all of that material would be going on
Most
disposal
of
island.
all of,
It'd be
James Creek.
non-beach compatible.
Okay.
Wait, Rich, did you understand it? Wait,
Non-rich, he said
What-
not,
he
not
said-
beach compatible.
he said the opposite of what you said.
Yeah.
It's not beach compatible.
Yeah, no, okay, hold.
The,
Mary's Creek, Turtle Creek, the canals and the canal, the finger canals, they've been dredged before. So, are these sands, are they considered contaminated?
well, nothing's contaminated, but they are beach compatible or non-beach compatible.
Yeah.
Based on the grain size.
Okay,
Fine grains or clay, we do not want to place on the beach.
okay.
And most of the project is fine grains or clay. The area in Jinks Creek, by strict sediment analysis, we could argue to put some of that on the beach, up through the S-curve. From Tubbs Inlet to the S-curve, we could put some of that on the beach. Out there, actually, there will be, it's borderline compatible. I would, looking at the cost and thinking of Ocean Isle Beach and the use, I would recommend putting it in the island after going out and seeing it. The grain size analysis, when we looked at strict by the book, yes, it could theoretically be placed on the beach.
Okay.
However, the material is mucky. It has some mucky layers in it, to put in scientific terms. And so I don't think that would, the perception of putting that on the beach I was concerned about, and the cost, the distance that it would have to be pumped to go on the beach, distance meaning money, the cost versus the cost to put it in the disposal island, sort of changed my line of thinking, looking at the material composite, and said we probably need to put this on a disposal island and not worry about, not subject ourselves to the scrutiny of the public perception of putting that mucky, smelly material on the beach, even though it most likely would wash out. I believe it will wash out and be nice material on the beach. I would recommend putting it in the disposal island to avoid that.
Now, looking down the road, during the maintenance process, there's going to be more contaminated sand,
No,
or,
wrong word.
wrong word, I think you understand what I'm trying to say. There'll be more sand that has to be deposited, and it'll be deposited, I assume, in the same locations. And that'll cost about, will it cost 641,000?
Depends on the volume.
It depends upon the volume.
I mean,
Where's most of the sand that has to get disposed of is coming from where? Jinks Creek? As opposed to the canals?
yes, there's 45,000 cubic yards in Jinks Creek, 18,000 in the Bay Area, 33,000 in the feeder canal and finger canals, 8,000 each in Turtle and Mary's Creek. So 8,000 in Turtles and Marys, 33,000 in the feeder canal, 45,000 in Jinks Creek, and 17,000 in the Bay Area. 18,000, 17.5. Want to get it exact.
Can you give us a copy of that? Of it, it comes down on this.
Yeah.
It's in one of the reports.
It's in the earlier report.
In
Not this-
one of the earlier reports.
Earlier.
He
Not
broke
this
it out
one.
as I recall.
Where is the beach compatible material located?
All of Jinks Creek, the southern portion. of
Southern
Jinks-
part of Jinks Creek.
Mostly South Jinks Creek.
The portion of Jinks Creek that's not in that blue line.
So that material,
Right here.
what are you proposing?
No,
No.
farther down.
Outside of the blue line in Jinks Creek. So if we look at the gray area where that,
It's south of the blue line.
That's the
This right
disposal.
here.
Yeah.
that is most of the beach compatible. or
Where
all
would
of the
that
beach.
material go?
That would go on the beach, either Ocean Isle Beach, Sunset Beach, any beach.
What's the going rate for
Neil's
beach?
also saying very clearly, though, that it may be not worth the extra work.
Well, that's
to
what
try
I'm
to
asking him.
differentiate that
Is
material.
that sand still too much work to justify?
No,
trying to
that sand
sell
I'd
it?
put on the beach. That sand I would put on
No,
the
he
beach.
said that part of it, he would put on the beach.
Is there a charge to Ocean Isle, or is there,
I mean,
they
Ocean
charge
Isle's gonna
us?
have to pay, I assume.
That has to be negotiated.
That has to be negotiated, yeah.
Ocean Isle's taking the position.
I know
no
what
way.
they're taking, I know what position they're taking, but it's not
I
acceptable.
mean, it could be placed on Sunset as well if we, all we need to do is find an area, need dunes. I mean, there's 60, almost 70,000 cubic yards. That's a lot of dune. A dune is anywhere from probably around 12 to 15 cubic yards per foot. So at 70,000 cubic yards, you can kind of see how long of a dune. I mean, that's a pretty significant dune.
I want to go back to the question about the maintenance, the question about maintenance, which would be beyond what we're doing here now. I mean, it would be down the road. Am I correct in understanding that one of the issues that we're dealing with now is that there has been no maintenance program? And as a result, we've got a lot more to dispose of than we would have had there been a maintenance program.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So it would be anticipated under a adequately designed maintenance program going forward after it's dredged, that that we wouldn't be facing the same kind of a disposal issue as we're facing now.
Correct.
Okay.
The volume will be less.
That's what I mean, the volume, the cost associated with it.
Yeah,
You still have to deal with it, but it's not, you wouldn't expect it to be as great.
Right, and that would, I mean, obviously that comes down to the maintenance interval. I mean, the longer we wait, the more volume we're gonna have to move. So we wanna find that sweet spot, if you will, where the time interval is long enough that but the cost is still manageable.
I have a question. When are we going to have the final cost of this project so we can go to the homeowners and tell them, this is approximately how much you're going to pay?
I'd say after the third agency, after the shellfish survey, and we define the permitting path for northern Jinks Creek, and we define where we're gonna place the non-compatible material, we can then,
So when is that, 6 months?
and,
We don't know yet, in essence, until all the pieces are, the puzzles.
right, the pieces are not there. And then also
We don't know until the bid
Ocean Isle
comes in
Beach.
from the contractor as to what the
Well,
cost is gonna be. The only thing that Neil is negotiating is the
understand.
disposal fee.
I understand that.
We
But-
don't know what the
Right.
contractor's gonna.
I understand that, but I see, what's the timetable? Is it a year from now, 2 years from now, 6 months from now?
well, for bids, we could have probably, we won't know the answer to that it could be some time before we have the actual bid prices.
Give me a time. A year from now, 6 months
We can
from
have a
now?
better
You sound like a
estimate in
politician. You sound
January.
worse than us.
We can have a pretty good estimate in January.
Okay.
3 months.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of unknowns with regard to this possible third scoping meeting. There could be additional things that could drive it down. That's why he's hesitant to give you a firm date, because there's so many unknowns
Do we
at
have a
this
date on the
time.
scope of meeting?
No, he just said he doesn't know if it's gonna be.
We can't request a scoping meeting until we have the materials
I,
completed in order to request it.
I say this with some trepidation. When we're talking about costs for non-compatible sand, disposal of non-compatible sand, I see my trepidation arises, and I don't necessarily want to make it public, but I know what other municipalities have spent per cubic yard, and it's nowhere near, I mean, it's far in excess, I should say. It's far in excess of $5.75 a
That's just
cubic
the
yard.
dump fee. That's
No,
the $5.75 is just what the owner wants to physically.
I understand that.
We still have to dig it and pump it.
I understand that, but what I'm telling you is,
make
other
improvements to the site.
coastal communities that have gone through dredging have paid far in excess of that amount of money for disposal, relocation and stuff, I should say. It's not the total cost of it, but I'm talking about the cubic yard. And the reason why I say with trepidation is I don't want to prejudice any negotiations with the owner of the lots.
Too late now.
He's aware. He's aware of he's aware of the price he's getting.
Okay.
I mean, he
Okay.
knows.
He's doing us a favor.
Mr. Neal, is there any other information that you require from this council?
Not at this time, no.
Listen, I know you put in there that the agencies told you they wanted 3 permits. You know, one of them covering all of Jinks Creek. I still say that in view of various costs and current conditions, that the only way we're ever going to proceed with dredging is by not doing North Jinks Creek. By only doing, and I'm sorry, it's in front of my house. Again, I don't have a boat. I don't care about it if it's ever done. However, in order to get access from both the feeder canals and your canal, you got to go through that little spit. Is there any way to get a permit when you're doing the feeder canals and that, for that little piece, for access for all the people on canals and the feeder canals? And frankly, that, you know, that part of the cost should be part of this tax unit also.
What you're saying is separating the north and south Jinks Creek,
Yes.
basically.
Sure. I mean, yeah, we can, how we structure the permit is totally
My
up to the town.
sense is we're going to have a heck of a time at this point, and I'm not even sure we should be looking at North Jinks Creek. You know, I've been the bug about money, and I keep saying what's one of the reasons I was not in favor, and I'm still not in favor of a sidewalk on Main Street, is there are other things that we need to spend our money on.
Is that the topic for today?
Well, no, I'm asking it, well, I'm just saying that's why I think it should be split up.
I guess at this point, I would recommend waiting till we have the permitting path for all of Jinks Creek, and then we can outlay a cost, what it would take to do what, and then make that decision. That would be my recommendation at this point. But to answer your question, yes, we can structure it however, especially if they're most likely going to be constructed
You're
together.
going to dredge the feeder canals, and you're going to dredge the canal, the main canal, you know, the one behind Canal Street. It doesn't make any sense to do that without that little piece added in, because they just won't have access. That's the piece that's closing in, and they just don't have access. So I sat there fishing off my dock a few days ago, and I can't tell you how many people went by saying, oh my God, you know, when is it going to be dredged? When is this going to be dredged?
Yeah.
It's that spit that's closing in.
I have an historical question. We have dredged before. We have dredged the canal, and we have dredged the canals and the feeder canal. Where did those deposits go?
In those islands. Those islands, they were going in the islands.
Oh, they went down to Bird Island.
Not Bird Island, in the same, one time it went in the same islands that we're putting in now, and then other times it went further down the Intercoastal Waterway. But all the times that I'm aware of it dredged back to 2002, the material went from Marys and Turtles Creek, went into disposal islands somewhere along the Intercoastal Waterway, not Bird Island's disposal islands, some of the privately owned disposal islands.
And we paid the property owner, I'm sure at that time, the last time we did it, I think it was 2000 or 2001, I forget.
I believe he was the one that dredged it. So he was the contractor. So I know material out of the feeder canal, it went in the uplands there on Riverside Drive, but yes.
I asked this question at the last time you were here, and I don't know if the answer has changed or whatnot, but the whole purpose of the dredging is to provide access to deep water, which means the ocean.
During low tide.
Well, the concept is at any time, but
I understand, but during low
well,
tide.
the problem is at low tide now.
Or the intercoastal.
Well, no, let me phrase my question, please. When we talk about deep water dredging, and it's access to deep water, which is the ocean, and there's only two ways to get there from the feeder canals. It's either through Jinks Creek to the intercoastal or through Tubbs, correct? Am I right so far?
Yes.
Tubbs is a non-issue, am I right there? As far as access to deep water.
Yes, I believe,
Okay,
yes.
that leaves the alternative of Jinks to the intercoastal. Am I right so far? All right. Now, at the last meeting I asked, is that access now available without doing anything to North Jinks Creek? Is that available?
At low tide, there are issues. At low tide, you need issues coming through North Jinks Creek,
Okay.
especially during the summer low tides.
All right, so the dredging of North Jinks Creek really revolves around, and I'm limiting it to North Jinks Creek now, really revolves around low tide issues. Okay, Anybody have any other questions? We need a vote on the authorization for the 575, correct?
That's what we're asking for, if that is something that the council feels comfortable at this time to allow. So that's another aspect of determining the cost of this project.
Can we put it in terms of that the sense of the council is that the cost of 575
It's acceptable.
is acceptable?
This is an additional $575,000.
No.
No.
We're
Cubic
not
yard.
spending it.
No, in response to my question, I understood a good portion of that cost was already included in the numbers we were talking about. But I'm not asking for a motion to say 575 to go to a certain person or a certain location. It's just that Mr. Neal needs it for his calculations to say, we're willing to spend 575 per cubic yard for disposal of non-compatible sand.
But we're not authorizing the money at this point.
No.
So this is just a
No,
process.
he
that-
needs it for his planning and
He needs it
calculations.
just for his
Right,
planning.
right. It hasn't been spent, it's not being spent.
I move we direct our contractor to use the figure of 575 for disposal of materials, and that is, would be acceptable to council.
I just
It's-
got one
it's-
question, Bob. If the going rate is $5, why are we giving him $575?
Well, the going rate is really, even if it was core managed, it's really, the core has a minimum of $5. It's really, they would still, because it is privately owned, they would still have to come back to the underlying property owner and say, is $5 acceptable to you? So $5, I misspoke. They charge $5 for islands that they own and manage. A minimum. For this one, they manage it historically, but they don't own it. So it would be so the going rate at this point is really, it's really up to the underlying property owner for those islands.
So we're only basically asking you to approve for us to approve the 575 so that you can complete your financial analysis, put all the puzzle together, basically.
That's correct.
Correct, and I should mention, this cost is eligible under the grant. So it's still 2/3 by the state, 1/3 by the local.
All right.
And as a follow-up too, there's gonna be some remediation work at these disposal sites that is above and beyond the 575 that we're going to have to pay for as a part of the dredging scope of work if in fact we move forward. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Yes, that was, we tried to incorporate that in the previous estimate.
But that's not the 575.
That's not the 575.
All the motion, it was Carol's motion, if I can characterize it, is to authorize Mr. Neal to use that figure with regard to his calculations and his plans. Okay?
Yeah, that's,
All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Neal. I said the audit report would be reversed. I've received information that we're going to have to reschedule the audit. Apparently, there was somebody not available, or,
You need to reschedule the audit.
okay.
Schedule the audit report.
The audit report.
reschedule the audit.
Yeah, the audit's in the hands of the local, the
If we
government.
had that on the, that's something, Rich, you may not want on the 21st. Do you want it on the, it's starting the November 2nd?
Do we know, let's ask Bonnie, do we know of their availability?
It's the 6th.
Thank you, I was about to.
December 6th?
Okay.
He was detained and unable to make it today, this morning.
So we-
But he is confirmed for November 6th.
Perfect.
And he will be here at 6.
All right, Bonnie, will you explain, just for the edification of everybody, the status of that report? Not what's in it, but where the report is and,
Is that mic on?
How about that?
oh, that's on.
Sorry. The audit has been sent to the Local Government Commission in Raleigh. It is considered final. He had a preliminary approval, preliminary review by LGC to give every indication that it will be accepted. It's another day or two. It was statutorily due October 31st, so it's still on time. But it was sent to LGC last week.
But as far as we're concerned and you're concerned, it's a final report.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
And one more.
As we talk about the audit, I did my own analysis, and I found things that, to me, and I have a copy here for distribution, that I'd like to read.
Well, Rich, does this deal with the substance of the report, what's in the report?
No. Well, you're asking me a question that it seems like a double-edged sword. It's what I observed in the audit.
All right, well, what I suggest is that you raise those on the 6th, because the auditor will be here. He's not here now.
Well, it's got nothing to do with the auditor, in this sense.
But
It's got something to do with the report.
Okay, well, we're going to discuss the report. We're going to receive what the report is on the 6th, and I think that's the appropriate time to deal with what your issues are.
I will give you a copy
Fine.
of the letter ahead of time that I will read. And you, thank you.
One other point, the bound copies will be delivered this week, so I'll distribute. You received a hard copy, or you received a digital copy last week. Some of you requested a hard copy also and have received that. The bound copy is being mailed. He was the auditor who was going to deliver them today, but instead they'll be mailed, and I'll have them in your boxes, I would assume, by the end of the week.
Thank you.
None whatsoever.
That's what,
So
That's a
the auditor's
formality.
going to be here on November 6th.
Okay.
thank you. Now's the opportunity, item number 5 on the agenda, opportunity for public comments on agenda items only. If you have a comment on agenda items, the request that you step forward, state your name and address, and please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Ms. Bockelman?
Ann Bockelman, 404 3rd Street. Just a couple of comments about the park rules. I sent you all an email, but I know you get a lot of emails, so in case you hadn't had a chance to read it, I will just briefly review what I said in the email. In the regulations in 99.07, it says no glass in the park, and I mentioned this at the last meeting. I think it would be wise to put an exception at the end of that. There are in other regulations for the park, .27 and .28 or .28 and .29. But anyway, there are other places where it says, except if you have a special event permit. So I think it would be,
You'll see.
okay, well, it's not in the copy
I
that
understand.
we got. So if you put that in, I think that might be a good idea.
Your comments well taken.
Thank you. And then I also, in looking at the fee schedule, I think it's perfectly reasonable that you've made a fee schedule for an event for an entire season. In this case, currently it would apply to the market, but there may be other things in the future. But I think that when you look at that cost and then you look at what you're charging for an individual special event, I think that cost is out of line. That's $175 for one day. You're charging $350 for an entire season. And I understand there's less work from the paperwork standpoint for the administration of the town, but I think that's a large amount for one event. Previously in discussions, you've mentioned that you want to limit the number of high-impact events. And I think that your $175 fee was an attempt to do that. But now you've put a rule in special events that there won't be any more than three high-impact special events in 1 week. So I really think that it is reasonable to lower the cost for a special event. I don't think the math logically makes sense. And the final comment I had was that I think the cost for weddings is high. I've been married 47 years. I'm not planning to get married again. I'm very happy with the husband I have. But I think for other people, having a wedding to go from $20 for 30 people to $250 for 31 to 100 people is a big jump. And the park still isn't, it's still not private. If you have a wedding there, somebody can come and stand right behind the chairs of your congregation and make faces at the minister or whatever people might do. So that's just my comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that, I assume when we get into the portion of the agenda, your comments will be discussed. We'll deal with them. Thank you. Other public comments? Mr. Nern?
Charlie Nern, 647 Oyster Bay Drive. Ann covered most of what I was going to say, but I'd just like to remind you, if you make the fees too high, you may risk not having a market yet next year. And this just have to be fair for everybody. If your idea is to do away with the market, then you're taking the first step to do that. The park is for everybody's use. The market is one of the best draws we have in Sunset Beach. So please consider those high fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Karen?
Karen Joseph, 915 Sandpiper Bay Drive. I hope you can answer my question, because I don't understand what's on the chart where it says multiple week events / 1 day a week, $350 seasonal charge. Does that mean the market, we'll just continue to use that example, would pay $350 each week, or for the entire season that they want to use it?
Entire season.
Okay.
Karen, I'm going to tell you right now that that thing was put in contrary to the instructions that we agreed to at the last meeting.
Well,
And I'm planning to move that we delete that.
One of the
So you're not going to like it, but that's what.
This is my analysis with regard to this is my analysis of what happened with the 350 and the 175. There was a discussion of alternatives at the last meeting with regard to 350 and 175.
Right.
And some council members believe that there was a consensus reached at, I'm not going to say what the consensus was, I'll let them say what it is, but with regard to that. But there were two separate proposals.
Right.
And when I saw it in the
Minutes?
in the packet, I saw it as alternatives. That doesn't mean that's what the consensus of council was at the last meeting, and that is going to be resolved in our discussion on it.
Mr. Corbett made a proposal, that's what you're referring to?
Well, not his
Oh,
necessarily.
okay.
This was before
Oh,
his
okay.
proposal. But
Okay, so really,
I mean, you can state your opinion that 350 is too high or too low, or
Okay.
175 is too high or too low, but I think in the discussion you're going to see, we're going to resolve that issue.
yeah, okay, I was unable to state my opinion because I didn't understand really what it said. My opinion, I have stated before, and is much like Mr. Nern, that what kind of message does the town want to send? If the message is stay out of Sunset Beach Town Park, if the dollar amount is too high, that's how it is going to be perceived. You may not intend it to be that, but that is how it will be perceived. That is how, excuse me.
Maybe.
Excuse me.
Things are just not true, Karen.
Excuse me, if I could finish.
Finish.
I have heard
Don't intimidate me.
keep him,
Mark,
No.
Mark,
Just come up here and yell fire again.
well, Mark, now is her 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I have heard many residents say that that is how what they think the town council is doing. Therefore, that is their perception, whether you want to believe it or not. I would hate to see that negative perception one more time be out in the public realm that is far beyond Sunset Beach. That is all we are saying to you. That your perception is not the only one out there. And I hope you can find a compromise that will allow the town to charge whatever is reasonable, because I believe that's important, and yet not drive away organizations that want to come to Sunset Beach. That is all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the explanation.
Thank you. Other public comment? Stand back here.
Carol Santavica, Forest Drive, Sunset Beach. As I read these charges, event fees, there's all kinds of charges on top of the event fee. So what if you choose to have a police car there? Or an ambulance there, but nobody's asked for it? Do they have to pay for that?
Well, they'll let Susan
No.
explain what takes place.
It's not explained.
Well, it was explained in a previous staff report.
Okay.
We meet with the applicants prior to the meeting. We jointly make a determination whether police, fire, ambulance, or any of these services are required, and they agree to it and pay for it prior to the event. Or if something should arise that we had to add additional services after the event, we invoice them. On their application, they mark what services they are asking for and that they are charged accordingly. If, let's say, the farmer's market, if the officers go to the farmer's market just to walk around and do their handshake and have their face present in the community, there's no charge to that, because that was not a service that they requested.
Or that the town felt was needed and appropriate for that type of event.
Yes.
Susan and the town is in control of what type of services. We drive that bus. We don't let the applicant determine whether they need police.
I guess experience will tell.
Thank you. Other public comment? None appearing. We'll move on to the next item of old business, which is the discussion concerning Chapter 99 Park Rules, Uses Fee, and Wedding Policy. We all received 2 copies of the documents as part of the packet. We went through at our last session, a detailed discussion as to what we wanted to see in them. The 2 sets of documents, one document shows the red line changes, one shows a finalized document. I'd like to deal with one at a time. First of all, with regard to the ordinance, does anybody have any discussion with regard to the ordinance?
We have the ordinance, we have the policy, we have the wedding policy, and we have the fee schedule. I'm hopeful that we can approve 3 out of these 4 today, and I'm going to ask that on the special event policy. I'm actually meeting with, I talked to Susan this morning, I'm going to raise these issues in this discussion. But 2 things really need to get rewritten, and I'm going to propose that we do a little rewrite on that and get it back to you after Friday, and to pass that part at the November 6th council meeting.
Is the scope very broad?
No, it's really just, it's a couple of issues that will require some discussion on our part. But if it's okay with you, would you object if we went through if we did the ordinances first.
Well, that's what I just asked
What he
for.
just said.
Okay, so on the red line version, if anybody has anything on that after I'm finished, please, believe me, we'll talk about it. But my comments on the red line version is, and again, I discussed it with Susan, and we are in agreement on this. Page 2, 9907, glass bottles and containers prohibited. I'd like to add a sentence. It shall be unlawful to possess or use glass bottles and containers in the park, comma, unless the town specifically approves the request as stated in an application for a park permit. Okay, and that should solve that issue.
My comment on that is I agree with doing that, but we've used a phrase in a number of other different places that simply says without a special event permit. I mean, so it would be,
Well,
if it's unlawful to use unless approved by a special event permit. Short to the point. And
I like your language better
parallels-
than mine. Unless
parallels the language
approved
that's by
in a special event.
permit.
Great.
All right. Anybody else have a comment on that? All right.
Moving on, there's really not much in this.
I have one more comment.
Are-
Let,
Can
no,
we,
I'm
let
sorry.
me just, that's okay.
I thought you.
Under 9922, go flip a number of pages. 9920, engine-powered models or toys restricted. I wasn't sure what that meant. I would just delete the word rollerblades. I would delete and similar toys. I didn't know what that meant.
There's other things that maybe we don't even know about yet, like there's sneakers that have wheels that protrude from the bottom of them now.
Could we say, well, we do say, or similar devices. Doesn't that cover it?
Well, this was my wording, and that's what I thought.
I don't
was
really
best.
care.
It can be flexible.
Let's just leave it alone.
Okay.
Next page, I would like to add one thing in at the bottom of the page, and that's my last comment on the ordinances, by the way. On 9951, guidelines for issuance. Number 1, that the proposed activity or use of the park will not unreasonably interfere with or detract from the enjoyment of the park by the public. And Pete, I've added back in, and I spoke to Susan about this, and at least we're in agreement. Any person or organization that uses the park per an approved event permit must allow regular visitors access to the park and make clear that entrance fees are voluntary. And we've added that back in.
Good.
Okay?
I-
That's
the only-
it for the ordinances.
The only thing I would change in that, the only thing I would change in that is you used a term, and I'd say a special event permit. You didn't use the term special event permit. You used
I
some other term.
wrote approved event permit.
Yeah, I'd use a special event permit, because that's a term of art in this.
Well, an event, we were going through, what's a special event, what's an event? An event includes weddings.
But-
I would leave it event.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
all
sure
right.
why we've separated the two.
But
I think
do we
maybe we
need,
should
do we have
clean it up.
event permits and special event permits?
event
Okay,
would be
all right,
weddings.
forget what I said, if we-
Okay? What else, what other changes?
I don't really have a change. I have a comment on 9920. Animals restricted, leash length for all animals shall be limited to 10 feet. I mean, we did that on the beach. There's nobody that goes out and measures the length of the leashes or enforces that. I mean, and that's just kind of hard to do.
Well, it's-
What we don't, the intent, and I put that in.
It's the
here, John,
retractable-
is
Yeah.
that somebody's gonna have a 20-foot-long rope
Yeah.
hanging off of some dog's neck and say, yeah, that dog is in my control.
Yeah.
If the dog is more than 10 feet away from you, it is not in your control. That's
I
why
agree, I agree with that. I just would like to say if we put it in our rules, I'd like to see it enforced.
Well,
All right, so
that's a
different
challenge
issue.
without a park ranger. However, let me give you a scenario. Well, that's what they are.
Oh, my God.
My point was, I'd like to
What's
see it
the potential
enforced. I don't object to having it in there.
No, let me give you an example. We had a dog mauling, where there was an extended leash used, and had we had the 10-foot, that would have been an added citation to the event. It didn't happen at the park. which is fine, but that is why, it's not for daily enforcement. In this case, it is for protection, more protection of the dogs, and in the event that there is a interaction, that we have some additional tools to use.
All right.
And the thing goes for everything on here, whether people playing golf, I mean, everything has to be enforced. Or there has to be a rule so that it can be enforced. If there's no rule, then can be no enforcement. Follow up to the.
All right, is there any other comment on the ordinance? None appearing, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the changes to Chapter 99
As revised.
as revised here today.
So moved.
Any other discussion? None appearing, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the next item is,
Okay, now I'd like to talk about the special event policy, because some of those things will affect a couple of sentences in the wedding policy, and will affect the fee schedule. So let me go through that, and although, we'll come up with a consensus here, but we do need to make some revisions. So other than, I'm not going to go through typos, I hope you will trust me that there are a few in there and that we will take care of. Really minor things, for example, on page 2.
If I can make a comment, if a lot of the changes were a result of what I put in there when I typed on it, and I have a problem with my computer in that the keyboard keys are never in the same place all the
what?
time.
Oh.
The keyboard keys are
Well,
never
don't
in the
worry,
same place.
don't worry about it. I mean, I'll go through it really quickly if that's an issue.
Carol, how about starting on page 1? And I'm going to say something that I think is what your intent is anyway. On page 1, we mention a $25 non-refundable application fee. All we have to say is a non-refundable application fee per the fee schedule, so that if we change that fee, we don't have to go back and change the special events policy.
So you would read,
I would take
a
out
non-refundable application fee as set forth,
per the fee schedule.
there's in the Town of Sunset Beach fee schedule.
And that should always be the case, so that we don't have to mine in to revise things when we revise
That's very
fees.
good. Okay, and in the end, there's just a comma needs to be moved, or, I've told you, I won't go through. Little word changes, I assure you, will not have any impact at all. It's just, okay, so under cancellation policy, this is what that I'd like to rewrite with Susan. I don't like the notion, for me, you talk about discouraging people from coming in. For me, the usage fees reflect wear and tear in the park and perhaps some income for potential improvements. Okay? The notion of a cancellation fee, if we haven't performed any services, I don't think makes any sense. If the market cancels an event because of weather, they shouldn't have to pay usage fee or any other fees that they may have to come up with 10 days ahead of time if we haven't incurred those costs. So what Susan and I are going to write is fees that we've already incurred, spraying of mosquitoes, whatever, and that we've incurred, and then the event is canceled for whatever reasons, those fees have to be paid for. But any fees that would be incurred on the day of the event, and that event doesn't occur, there's no reason to charge somebody. There is no wear and tear in the park. The event isn't there. There's no wear and tear.
If I can comment on that, I understand and agree with you with the concept. What I envision a cancellation fee addresses is willy-nilly reserving time periods without any real specific intention of going forward with them, and ending up with a very unmanageable
All right,
situation.
So that is a concern, but Susan has the authority in these rules to reject requests for permits for people who have not done what they're supposed to be doing, have not been reputable people, have not fulfilled their obligations. So we do have that protection in there. I understand what you're saying. I hope that doesn't occur. If that proves to be a problem, you can always go back and put in a cancellation fee. But if the concept is we don't want to discourage the usage, And weather is the thing. I hate to have somebody have to come up with a $175 charge when there's no event.
I would,
Why are we charging them?
I would suggest if we're gonna do it, if there's gonna be a cancellation fee, that it be in the fee schedule too, not in the policy. You know, we could say a fee would be charged, or, but.
Well,
the-
no, you can't put in the fee schedule, there is, there is no cancel, I'm gonna remove a cancellation fee. They will be charged for services that we've already performed, but there's no cancellation fee.
I think you're.
Well, like the application fee, because the
The
town has already
application fee-
done the work to
Right.
pre-screen
Application
that.
fees, they don't get that back. But if they've paid 10 days ahead of time for, what would happen on the day of the event? For police protection, and the event doesn't occur, and there is no police protection.
Well, the application fee of $25, although it's not
That would be
significant,
non-refundable.
might be the governor, the concern I was concerned about. I mean, that might be the governor of the issue I was concerned about, so.
Are you okay? Anyway,
Yeah.
so we're going to rewrite that. We will get it to you. We're going to rewrite it Friday. We'll type it up. We'll get out to you this weekend. So
And
we'll
you're
give you
just trying to be
plenty of
clear,
time.
Carol, because we wouldn't have charged them for police if the event never took place, so.
No, but
it's-
they
or
have-
for
there's a-
barricades if it never took place.
But if they're requesting police protection, if they're supposed to pay for that 10 days ahead of time.
And
I'm
what it
saying-
says is minus the application fee and a cancellation
So
fee of
it's
15%
that-
of other fees. That's
So
what
it's
she's
that
addressing.
policy that I'm looking at. And do I have a consensus? Do you agree with my?
Yes,
Yeah.
Good. And I'm going to do the same
What
thing on
about
the
other
wedding
council?
policy.
I think everybody's nodding.
Okay,
I
good.
agree. I have a-
So
I have a-
I'm not going to go through word changes now. We're going to, we're struggling with coming up with appropriate language.
Okay, I have a clarification in that same area. On the last paragraph, under reservation procedures,
What-
item 2, on the first page, reservation procedure, item 2B.
Well, you're going back.
Well, it's still talking about fees
That's
and
the application
cancellations.
fee.
I mean, on the application fee, it's related to the application fee. The last line says, all other applicable fees are due 10 business days prior to the event or prior to the first day of the event in the instance of multi-day events. So if we have a per-day charge of, like the market, that goes, say, for 20 days, they have to pay all the fees.
That's what this says.
That's what it says. I mean, is that the intent? So that whatever fee we have, we multiply it by 20, and that gets paid up front before the season starts?
Let's look at that. I don't,
No, you're
You
right.
see what I mean?
yeah,
I
well,
mean,
you don't want somebody to have to come up with a $2,000 payment.
It could be,
For an entire season.
Yeah.
it could be language similar to something
I'll
like,
fix that.
percentage
I'll fix it.
cost.
Or
for
just.
that
I'll fix
day.
it within
Sort
a
of a
certain time
payment
of each
schedule.
day of the event. We can do
Could-
that on.
yes.
as-
Because currently, we invoice on a monthly basis. That was added.
Yeah, no, that
So
wasn't,
I don't-
that wasn't
fix it.
contemplated.
Okay.
We'll add
I
that
mean,
to the
that-
thing on
that's-
Friday, okay? All
Thank
right.
you.
Moving on, then flipping to the, I guess, page 3, 1, 2, 3.
Was that start rules and regulations?
Rules and regulations. Okay, I took out the first sentence. Town staff reserves the right to inquire during the application process to determine if the request is a special event or not. Doesn't add anything, we don't need it. Again, I spoke to Susan, it's just deleted. Okay, we're continuing to, let's see. Town staff reserves the right to refuse events based on prior event conduct, blah, blah, blah. Relationships will be evaluated on the organizer apostrophe as ability to submit timely fees, comply with town policies, commitments filled, and any other issues identified by staff. I don't know what commitments filled, I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're getting at, Susan.
Okay, well, I have rewritten it, and if you look on your clean copy, because it was
Yeah, see, I only
rewritten.
looked at the
It
redlined.
was rewritten in accordance to the attorney's recommendation, and I'll read it for you. Town staff reserves the right to refuse events based on prior event conduct that violated the special event policy or local ordinances. Events will be evaluated on the organizer's ability to submit timely fees, comply with town policies, rules and regulations, commitments filled, and any other issues identified by
That's
staff.
exactly, you said not in relations, events. So what we're changing is the word relationship to events.
Mhm. It's on
All
your
right,
hard
but what is
copy.
commitments filled? I don't know what that means.
Let's say we have the meeting with the organizers or the applicants, and we go through the list of their expectations and our expectations of them. So let's say they don't want to have the bathroom cleaned or be charged for toilet paper, but they're willing to provide soap and toilet paper and clean the bathroom after the effect. They're committing to do that, or committing to pick up micro trash after the event. If they do not fulfill those commitments that they made prior to the event, that is what it's referring to. And that can be easily tracked because we will be invoicing them for the lack of commitments.
I thought we had agreed on the bathroom thing. Let's go back for a second. That we thought, you know, it's not just cleaning up the bathroom, it's the, again, usage fees. It's the wear and tear on the bathroom from hundreds of people attending an event. So for me, I understand that, and gosh, I am not singling out any person at all. I understand that the market has been great about cleaning up the bathroom, and they have not been charged a bathroom fee.
No,
But for me,
that's inaccurate. They have been charged.
they had, but the last time I asked you, you told me they hadn't.
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
They
So
had
the wear
a,
and tear is being taken care of.
they had a incident where we had to bring in staff.
All right.
I would call it a hazmat incident.
Then I'm okay with all of that, okay? Okay, so the next major issue is limit on events. And again, I was talking, right now you've got 3 high-impact events. I don't think that's, for one thing, I'd like to see it as 2 high-impact events a week. And, you know, we were talking about, what, 2 medium-impact events. It's how we figure out, maybe you can have 4 medium-impact events a week if you don't have any high-impact events. Or you have 1 high-impact event, so you can have 3 medium.
Well, you could
We're
have
gonna
you could have a 4-day event.
We're
in
going
a
to
week.
work on that language. I'm just saying, I don't think this language is getting what we need, and it's 3 high-impact events, I believe, are too much
Well,
in any
if-
week.
if we also need to take the numerical 150 number out of there, because weddings are considered high impact if there's more than 30, unless we change that on the fee
So
schedule.
take out numbers.
Let's just call it high impact, and
We've defined
the
it,
fee schedule will determine what is high impact for which type of event.
High-impact,
Well-
medium, anyway, we're
well-
going to work
Hold
on
it, let
that.
Susan finish.
I just want to state that the reason we did a separate wedding policy where that is referenced is why we didn't remove it at this time, because it's separate.
Well, this to me just confuses it, though. What benefit does the number 150 do? What
It
if
can
all
be
of a
in-
sudden on the fee schedule, we decide that 100?
Right.
We'd have to go back and change it on this.
Oh, no, I understand. I just wanted to let you
You're
know the background.
completely correct in that, and I'll fix that. But we've got to figure out how to word that, and it is very difficult to do, which is why we didn't do it in the 15 minutes this morning. And again, we'll sit down there on Friday.
I might suggest, though, that whatever you and Susan come up with, that we somehow try to get that out to the council members prior to the next meeting.
We'll do it on
because-
Saturday.
Let's do it prior to the meeting so that we're not trying to regurgitate whether 2 or 3 high-impact events is my opinion that should be in here. Let us get that out of the way before the next council meeting.
Before we spend time, Carol and Susan spend time revising this, does any member of the council at today, and this is not a commitment from now to time immemorial, does they have a difficulty with the concept of limiting the number of events, whether it's high impact, medium impact, or low impact? Does anybody have a difficulty with that?
I just feel that the parks, should not be crowded every day of the week with an event.
Well,
then
that's
you don't
how you're
have
gonna,
any difficulty.
that's how you're gonna
No.
limit it. That's how
Right.
you're limiting it. Yeah, I'm just saying, whether you have a conceptual issue with limitation, that not how it's limited. Because I don't wanna have them waste time, come up with some language that everybody agrees with and one person doesn't.
I think the majority consensus is that there should be some limit. on the number.
Everybody agrees that there should be some
Yes.
limitation.
So let us
Okay.
work out and argue and It's going to be very hard to do this,
It-
but we'll
but-
come up with something, and you'll have it this weekend.
But the,
But something that gives the town administrator who's managing this.
I understand that.
The judgment room to
Well,
approve or disapprove events.
within reason, and it may be that we have to look at that. So we haven't written it yet.
Well,
Yeah.
We'll write it.
Carol, when you and Susan sit down to think about this, to come up with your wordsmanship, I might suggest that rather than saying 3 a week, 2 a week, 1 a week, 1 a month, 55 a year, that it be, we can deal with limiting the events based upon what's in the best interests of the utilization of the park by all town citizens. Just something as simple as that to give Susan
Say
the
that again?
clout, give Susan the clout to use her best judgment as to how many high impact, low impact, medium impact.
I'd rather see some guidance. I don't want to leave it completely open. It's my personal opinion. We need guidance. But we'll come up with it.
Yeah, but
We'll
as soon
see
as you
what the
put
consensus
3 a
is.
week, then
I-
it takes the hammer out of Susan's hand to be able to say, hold it, these are extra special events. I don't want to have 3 of them this
We can
week.
put in some caveat, maybe she can come to, we'll figure it out.
I just think it's a parameter that may not need to be quantified on the gnats behind.
Well, I personally don't agree with you, but let me write something, and then please, obviously, you'll have an opportunity to opine on that. The next page, that's page 3. Again, only forgetting typos. Under signs, banners, and materials, I have added back in a sentence that say, all signs posted shall be removed from the event site within 24 hours, blah, blah, blah. And this is the sentence I'm adding in, and it's what you and I have worked on. Space for signs is very limited. The town reserves the right to allow or not allow different organizations to display their signs for closely scheduled events. The idea is, if you had 5 events in the park, even they could be low-impact events. The yoga in the park is a low-impact event. She's got a sign sitting up there. If you've got 5 events, we now have 3 areas for signs. I don't want to have 6 areas for signs. Nobody wants to see signs all over. Nobody wants to see that. So there has to be some flexibility in making some people not have their sign up for a week because another event is coming in there. And I'm going to leave that to Susan's discretion. Because there was an issue recently where somebody was just bitching and complaining. We can't have that again. I think that language has enough flexibility in there where we'll be okay.
Susan's nodding her head, so that's.
Yeah, and as I said, we did come to an agreement on
Yeah, I
this.
agree.
to do more with personalities then.
There we go.
Okay, so
And
that's
the
it
limited
for
number of
this.
sign areas we had at that time.
So other than typos and things, I mean, it's those policy things which we will complete Friday morning. You will have it this weekend. Okay?
All right, the next is the wedding policy.
Okay, so on the wedding policy, and then we'll do the fee schedule. On the wedding policy, again, other than like a couple of little typos, on cancellation, I'm going to have that language consistent with the cancellation fee policies that we're putting in the special events. So I'm going to fix that. Okay? Again, if they're not holding the event, and they're not erecting a tent, they're not using the park, I don't want them to be charged. It's, you know, we're not a wedding site, a venue where people are going to lose money if somebody cancels at the last minute. I mean, that's why you have cancellation policies, because they would otherwise have sold that event to another person.
I don't
We're
think,
not in the position.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing with you.
Right, okay. So we're all okay with that.
I have a question for Susan that has to do with the large, we call it high-impact wedding on the fee schedule. And I know we're not talking about the fee schedule, but I think it's important for us to.
We are talking about the fee schedule.
Well,
We will
next.
Right now.
Susan, if we're having a large wedding, a high-impact wedding, and they're putting up a tent, it's my thought, it's my understanding that the fire chief or the fire chief would need to be the one to go inspect that tent once it's been assembled.
That's true.
Is there a fee for that?
$100.
Is that fee on the fee schedule?
Yes,
And I know I could look, but to me, I didn't know if that was included as a part of the wedding, or if that was another item like bathroom cleaning that could or could not be added.
And it's under the, it's not in. special
Susan,
event, but-
Susan.
oh, I'm sorry. It's not in, I thought I was projecting pretty well. It's not part, it is, there's an inspection, a tent inspection fee. You bring up a good point, I'll duplicate it and put it also under the event fee, but yes, they are charged $100, and they fill out a separate application because it has to go through the permit office.
Now, does Kevin have the ability to say the wind's too strong, they have to take the tent down? I mean, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't know.
Do we have that, can we put that wind velocity on the
I,
parks, like we do with the cabanas?
well, yeah, but cabanas are 12 by 12. These are 30 by 50s put up by professionals, and I would caution against that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can't control the anchoring of a cabana on the beach, per se, but we can, but the fire chief can control the anchoring of a tent in the park for a wedding.
Okay.
Because that's public access, if you will, as opposed to
I
private.
just want him to have the ability to say that
No, you're
the
right.
wind's too strong today.
You're
All
right.
right, is there any more on wedding policy?
Should we flip to
Okay.
the fee schedule?
Fee schedule.
Okay. Low-impact events.
Do we have to approve it?
That's what I was going
Oh, yeah, you're right, no, you're right, you're right.
I'm sorry, do we have to
We've
what?
discussed, approve it. We've discussed changes, proposed changes to the,
You can't approve the wedding thing yet because I have to fix the cancellation part of it.
Well, but we know what you're going to write in there.
I think we can.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's in accordance with the other cancellation policy.
Yeah.
all right.
Um,
Sounds good to me,
I have a motion.
Susan.
So
I
moved.
so move.
All right,
So
it's,
moved.
All right.
it's to approve it as revised today.
Yeah, and the same thing for the special event policy too, or were the changes so broad in that we, we're
You're
gonna bring
you're
it
going to
back?
get that, you need to look at it.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
we
what I
need to
thought.
think about it. I would say, oh, it's not going to be an issue, but it's going to be very hard to write.
I got it.
All right, then, are you, do you want, there is a motion. Do you want to move the wedding policy?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
All right, so we've got a ordinance, and we've got a wedding
Now,
policy.
now, Mayor, to
Now
be
the
clear,
fee
those were
schedule.
not straw votes, those were real votes.
Those were actual votes. Those
All
were
right.
actual votes.
Fee schedule. We've got low-impact events, it's $10. We originally had 25, I don't know how it got down to 10. I think that's, you know, when you're reserving the park, I guess they're paying an application fee, but again, I'm just looking at wear and tear. I'd like to see, I know this is nickel and diming, I'd rather see it $15 than $10.
Well,
20 is better for me, but it's, you guys have to talk about
But
this.
Before we get into the weeds on this, I want to caution everybody. We spent a lot of time on these the last time, and we had consensus votes on these the last time.
Well, not on all of these. No, we didn't.
Yes, we did. On the ones that appear here, we did.
You did, and I'm the one that brought it to $20.
And,
You brought it to 20, and it's showing up, so, all right, so.
and not that those were final votes, but we had consensus votes on all of these things. I don't want to go again on the 6th, go
No.
through it all over again.
No, we're going to do it right now. Okay, so low-impact events, $20.
That's fine, so let's,
Moving on. This,
Well, let's,
the-
so we don't get, in a, or underwear in a knot here, let's make sure all of council agrees with that. That
the
would be
majority
wrong.
of council.
You have to
The
go,
majority.
you have to
Let's say
go,
all of council.
well, you have to go for the majority.
We're
One,
gonna set a record here.
okay.
What-
I think that our fee schedule is still too high. I sent you a proposal to think about. I recognize that you didn't like it last time. But just, I thought by putting it in writing, sending it to Lisa, sending it back out to you, you could just think through some of the impacts. And I think we are setting the schedules way too high, and it's more than it's needed for the wear and tear. And we don't have a special fund that can go together to put together the potential improvements. So, you know, I'd like the idea of something like 10, 50, and 75 for the park structure, and then a fixed rate for the multi-use, multi-day events spread over a period of time. and I sent you that before.
Well, for members of the public that may not be aware of it, John's suggestion was that there be, as he said, different tiers, 10, 50, 75 structure for park rental fees. Tier 2, multi-day events held on successive days or on a once-a-week basis, one-time fee of $500 for multi-day events with 2 to 10 iterations, one-time fee of $750 for multi-day events with 11 or more iterations, and then he gave cost example.
Comes out to $4,200. And my question is, you know, what message does that send?
It's not sending any message. The idea is to have a usage fee that reflects wear and tear. If you have one event, it's wear and tear. If you have 10 events, it's wear and tear on 10 separate days. And John, we specifically said we weren't going to do that, and it showed up in this again, and I'm going to recommend that we delete that entire, that we do not have a separate schedule for multiple week events, 1 day a week.
And
And I would
and I
delete
think
that.
we should. That was my opinion.
Okay,
I
but
understand
Not
that.
recommendation.
But what we said earlier, we all agreed on this. You disagreed with it, John.
I
understand-
disagree,
I know, but
yes,
the other four
yes,
of us
yeah.
agreed that we should be 175. So here we're going to rehash it again. We're going to do it again on the 6th? Can we
No,
take the
I
accept?
just told
accept-
you, I sent you, I put it in writing to make it clear so you could think about it.
It was clear a month
you know,
ago.
And
So
leave
I
it at that.
move that we accept, that we approve the fee schedule as revised, i.e. park rental low-impact events is now $20. The line for multiple week events, 1 day a week is deleted. Everything else stays the way it is.
Let me add to that, Carol. I disagree with the 175. I voted in the straw vote to agree to it because I was at 150, Mark was at 200, and you made the comment, Mark, can't we just get along,
Compromise.
as Rodney King
Right.
said? But so I voted yay on the 175, even though I disagree with it.
I
But it's an offer in compromise. However, Susan, maybe I'm pushing a rope here, but we have a picnic area rental of $20.
Yes.
Is it clear to everybody that the picnic rental, because someday we may put a picnic table somewhere there, it's a gazebo rental. It's the picnic area gazebo rental. And it's my understanding that it is not automatic, that is an extra.
Correct.
That any of these other fees do not include that picnic. If I were to rent the area for a wedding, I would assume that I could use that gazebo area because I'm renting the park.
No.
Okay.
And she makes that clear when she meets with the
All right,
applicants.
just so it is, because it wasn't clear to me when I read this. That's why
But I
I'm
think
bringing it
that-
up.
I think that's in the wedding policy.
Yes.
that-
Well, I'm talking about every special event. If I were renting the park for the farmer's market, I would assume, in something like the farmer's market, I would assume that I could use that gazebo because I'm renting the park.
They can use it, but it's not an exclusive use. Like, let's say you're going to have a birthday party for 20 kids. When you pay that $20, you're exclusively using it for whatever hours you have it. The park is still open to everybody, but yet,
But the gazebo area isn't.
correct.
Okay, I just didn't find that clear when
Okay.
I read here.
Okay.
And that's why next to
make a
low,
notation
medium,
of
and
everything
high,
you figure
I
out?
put,
Right.
I put brackets that said, not including picnic area, or not including gazebo area.
We can do
But-
that. What you're unaware of, with every applicant, they have to submit a map of the area of usage.
Okay,
And that is part of that map. So if they don't designate it, then they,
I honestly, I would leave it alone at this point. and-
okay.
okay, but if we
See if
haven't
that
made it
becomes
clear
an
and I'm
issue.
sitting down with you, I would say, hold it, my $20 gives me that gazebo. And I would demand that from you because you're not clear and you're the author of this document, so the error falls on you, not on me as the applicant.
I think the
Wanna make a
intent,
notation?
I think the,
Brian?
I think the intent is that if somebody calls Susan and says, I would like to have a little cribbage tournament, can I reserve the
Covered area.
covered area? And Susan says, yes. Is there a fee to that? Yes, here it is. When you reserve it, it's yours. You own it for that period of time of which you paid.
But there also then, according to Susan, is a low-impact event fee as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And the low impact fee is, how do you, Yes, that's right. I don't know
Yeah.
what else to say,
So,
yeah.
so to have,
My point exactly,
for
I don't
Rich-
think it's clear on the
for
document,
Rich to have
that's
his
all.
cribbage tournament, it would cost him $30.
40.
Well-
It would be the reservation, the application fee,
Oh, yeah, and the
and the
$25
small
fee.
impact
Yeah.
use fee,
Yeah, so if I
which is
sit
part.
down with,
That covers the bathrooms,
All right, so it's
You know,
25,
the
it's 25
concerns.
plus 20 plus 10.
yes.
Now, if you went to the park with 3 of your friends and you pulled out a cribbage board, nobody is going to charge you anything.
no one's gonna
No.
charge me a
No.
It's
thing.
not an event, you have.
And they shouldn't.
But then,
Correct.
but then he's gonna get people playing in his cribbage game that he may not want to play in his cribbage game.
What if you show up with 50 of your friends in a cribbage
Well,
board?
that's it, yeah. Susan, listen,
You're right.
you know, we're trying to make.
Okay, guys, we have a motion on the floor. Can we?
Well, yeah, but then I don't even know what that motion,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
The
either.
understand
motion
what the
is
motion
that
is.
we approve the fee schedule with the exception that we have revised low-impact events from 10 to 20, and we've deleted the line for multi-day events.
But, wait a second, let me,
Susan, the current fee schedule will recover all related expenses, at least based on our historical statistics.
It depends on the number of events, because as you know, we have weekly expenses in the park regardless of whether there's an event.
Oh, I
So I
understand that.
can't say it's 100%
No, no, I
recovery for any
understand
maintenance
that.
in the
But
park.
for the most part.
But for the impact, yes.
Yeah,
Councilwoman Scott, you said eliminate what line?
The top line on page 2 of the
Okay,
fee
the
schedule.
seasonal charge
Right.
for a multi-week event.
Just delete
I
that
hope we're going to
entire-
discuss that.
Right, well, that's
Okay.
why I wanted to
Okay.
understand what her motion was.
Okay. Again, for the record, to be clear, I'm against the 175. I think it should be 150, as stated before, for a high-impact event. However, as an offer and compromise, I'm not going to
Right.
quibble
Mark
over
and I both
$25.
had $200, and we,
But I believe strongly that we need to have multiple week, it's hard to describe what they are, because there could be, I could use it for 4 days, and I need to pay 4 fees if it's a 4-day incremental event, or if I have it every Wednesday for a month, that's still 4 days.
all right, well,
but
let's,
it's, again, it's usage fee reflecting wear and tear. That wear and tear is going to exist, whether it's on day 1, day 4, day 7, you're going to have the same wear and tear each day of the event. Same, numbers of people.
all right, just keep it simple for me.
It's not trying to make a profit.
No, no, no.
I have trouble with
no.
the wear and tear concept of how you measure it and what wear and tear it is that's
Doing the
taking.
best
By
we
the
can.
expenses that Susan and Dustin have to get to reseed the park, bathroom maintenance, if there's a plumbing issue, and other kinds of things that occur. Maybe pruning if necessary.
But that takes place no matter whether it's used or not.
That's not the wear and tear, Rich.
All right,
Look at the site, Carol.
finish what you're saying. Finish what you're saying.
If I'm managing the farmer's market, how much do I pay
$175 per event.
per event?
So it's 24 times $175.
Don't use
Wait. that-
One
See?
$25
Wait a minute,
application
let's,
fee.
Susan,
Don't use the word event, because a farmer's market is an event. Just like, if Possibility had a 2-day, it would be an event. So the event can be a single-day event, or a multi-week event, or a multi-day event. So I just caution, because that
But
was
there's
a lot of
only
the
one
confusion
application
before.
fee for a multi-day
Correct.
event, but you're
Correct.
paying on a per-day basis.
Yes.
And if a 175, it means every day, if it's a 4-day event during a week, paying $175 a day. If you want to use the gazebo area, you're paying $20 an hour for every hour that you want exclusive access to that gazebo.
And that's one of the reasons, and I'll just bring this up briefly, that I had the low-impact events at 0 initially, so that it wouldn't be an additional charge, including the hourly or the yoga that's there for an hour and has really little or no impact to the park.
Yes, you did. All right.
all right, well,
How about if
Peter,
we-
Peter,
maybe
you
we
were, you were opposed to, I understand the $150 argument. You were opposed to, what about the $350 event fee?
For a multi-day
For a
event.
multi-day event.
I think it's too broad, because it says 1 day a week. if I want to have something for 3 consecutive weeks, the fee should obviously be structured for 3 opportunities to use the park. If I want to have a farmer's market for 24 consecutive weeks, then obviously the fee, I believe, should be different. And even though it's complicated, and I'm sure we're not going to go down this road, and I've got 6 more weeks on council, there should be, I feel, an event, if you're going to use it 2 to 3 days, it should be $300. If you're going to use it 4 to 6 days, it should be $450. So on and so on and so on, which would get you to the point, if it's over 20 days, it's a $900 fee for the whole year.
But for me, that is eliminating the whole concept of wear and tear.
Tear,
You got
yeah.
800 people in that park
No,
on day
this is
1, day
progressive.
2,
You're
day
paying more for, each time you use it, you're paying about $150 a day more for it. So, with my
The usage
structure.
fee,
But
you
Pete,
know,
why don't we
you're
have a
using the park for
simple
a day,
one-day
it's-
charge?
Okay.
I mean, let's have it be simple. I
You-
mean, if you're
you heard
150,
what I said,
175, I know.
I'm
Look.
trying to keep it simple,
All
stupid.
right, so I'm going to amend my motion to change low-impact events from $10 to $15, not 20, for starters. I mean, I want a minor thing in there, okay? So I've got $15 instead of 20.
Well, the low-impact park rental fees
Right.
now are $10.
I changed it originally to 20 just now, and now I'm moving it back to 15. I move we adopt,
Well,
this-
well,
I'm going to do this
you
one
already-
more time.
you
I
made-
move we adopt the fee schedule as listed with the exception that the number under park rental low-impact events is changed from $10 to $15, and the line for multiple week events, 1 day a week, is deleted.
Well, we're discussing that, she moved it, we were discussing that motion. All right, now, did everybody understand what the motion is?
I understand it.
All right? Do you want any more discussion on the motion? It would eliminate the 350 and the 175 would apply,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and I still disagree with
Okay,
it. so
well, that's what the motion is.
Yes.
All right. No other discussion? Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, the ayes
But
have
it
it.
passes.
The ayes have it. That's it as far as the park rules are concerned. Consideration of awarding contract for roof repair.
Oh, are we really finished?
No, we're not finished. We're going to revisit this on November 6th.
But
In front of you is
only
the
the
roof
policy.
and wall repair for Station 1, contract award. We had one, it was a formal bid, not formal, it was a competitive bid process. It was a mandatory bid, pre-bid meeting for it. We had one bidder, and it was Commercial Roof Systems Industry that was here for the bid.
And what was the cost? And what will they do? I mean,
They will do all the work that was referenced in the Terracon survey on the repair.
and what is the cost?
Is for the repair,
It's right here, Rich.
Oh, I didn't get a copy.
Yeah, it's there, Rich. It's
All right, so I don't know why this is
It's
on the agenda before the
$79,000.
discussion of how we handle fire fees. Because my inclination is to say people have now had their fire fees increased by 25%. That's $247,000 for the fire department. The roof repair should come out of that amount.
Well,
of
Carol,
money.
just because it's the fire station, that's a public that's a town-owned building. It has nothing to do, or little to do, it doesn't matter whether it's the town hall, it's a roof repair. Coming out of the fire fees is a whole different topic.
We should, yeah, let's not concern about ourselves where it's funded from.
And,
Let's
and
concern
and we're
ourselves
not
with the
obligated to
cost.
spend fire fees on fire.
But we can.
Yeah.
We can.
Yes, we can, yes.
So why don't we
can.
take it out of the fire fee?
Susan.
It's not a
Susan.
funding issue.
Susan?
It's an expense issue.
If you take it out of the equation that it's Fire Station 1, as you may recall, each of our buildings have had mold issues and have been addressed. We are lawfully obligated to address this issue regardless of the fire fee discussion. We have a legal responsibility to provide a healthy, safe work environment.
All right, but Susan, it's too late in this fiscal year to revise the amount of money that we've supplemented the fire department with.
No,
They've now had an increase in their fee schedule. We are supplementing their budget by $900,000. So our citizens are now paying a 25% increase in fire fees, which is an extra tax. Now, I know other people are doing it too, but it's for protection of the area, rather than, you know, can I do a budget amendment? Okay, let's see who's in council, because that may be beyond me. But you guys, can you do a budget amendment in January to reduce the amount of money
I
going to
think,
the fire department?
Carol, I think if
That's
I
not
can
part of the
address what you just said, in keeping with what, if I understand correctly, what Susan said is, it's not a responsibility of the fire budget. The roof is not the responsibility of the fire budget. Am I correct in stating that?
It comes out of the facilities, which is
Public
Dustin's
buildings.
budget.
It's an
Yes.
expense.
It's something you have to do,
It's
or
harder.
we'll be forced to close Station One.
It's an expense.
We are,
Can we do a budget, so my question is,
but your
can
question,
no, and I won't be here, so and it depends on who's around and what will happen. Can a budget amendment, Finance Director, ma'am, can a budget amendment be done during the year to reduce the amount of money in any one particular account?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
yeah.
That's it, okay? I'm good.
Okay.
All right,
Fine.
so could I hear a motion to accept the bid at $79,488 for the
Well,
repair?
So moved.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if you recall, when we were having our budget retreat session, we went from 500,000 now down to 80,000, I believe. I don't have the number again, Bob, is it? Yeah, 80,000. So this should be a little relief.
Well, yeah, but the number that was talked about in the budget discussions was replacement, not repair. This is repair.
Yes.
I understand.
Yes.
But the roof didn't have to be replaced.
I mean, we're spending a lot less money, I
Yeah,
understand.
okay, we can play with words.
What was Terracon's estimate? It was 500,000 for a new roof. What was their estimate for the
Over
repairs?
150.
Yes.
Okay, so this is considerably less than the
It was-
estimate that Terracon had come up with for us.
It was 100 to 150, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we have any protections against this price that we are about to agree on being inflated as they, what protects us
Protections?
from them, you know, the
We-
price going up with unknowns?
Well,
No.
until you remove a wall, you'll always have an unknown. And that's when they would request
Yeah, a
Sheetrock.
field change.
a change order.
And-
But that
Yeah.
happens with any project
Project.
we have.
As we have differing site conditions as the process, there could be change orders. There could be,
Yes.
there could be reductions.
Yes.
Highly unlikely, but there could be reductions. But there also, we need to go into this with our eyes open, though. There will be additional expenses, because this is only to fix the roof.
I'm sure there'll be
This is
field
not to
changes.
fix the
Yeah.
interior issues, which obviously have been a result of the roof leaking over a long period of time.
Is this a pretty reputable firm?
Yes, the references were very good, very good. They've done fire stations before.
Yeah,
And,
well, I
and
hope they,
and hospitals.
Do we require a bond?
Yes.
yeah, I hope they didn't do the one when they constructed the fire station.
No.
No.
Unfortunately, they're not still around.
I mean, that roof should have lasted 25, that roof should have lasted 25 years.
All right, the motion is to authorize the expenditure of the
Carol's not
700.
here.
Well, she told me that she's voting for it.
Okay.
She's just stepped out, but she told me she's voting for it. To spend the $79,488. That's the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can we have a 3-minute break?
As far as I'm concerned, it's all right with me. All right, we'll take, it's about 7 till 11.
voted yes.
I'll give it about 3 minutes. We'll reconvene.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, well, that's when we first started. Park's been open 2 years. I don't think it's been open. A little element, that's the policy with the Constellation, but they're very minor.
Hi, Lisa.
Are you looking at the fee schedule that you review every year for budget?
Yeah, and I'm looking at it, in fact, it might be not.
How we doing?
That's not the entire fee schedule. Well, I only gave her what,
Well, if you go on the website, this is the entire fee schedule of ours.
Oh, that's a problem. Why don't, we think about the town administrator has the authority to control the number of days between events, depending on the event.
yeah,
Then you could have, you know, maybe no days between an event, like if yoga was on Saturday, you
Yeah.
could do something on Sunday.
yeah. And see, it's like, let's see, plausibility. That is a 10 to 6, 10 to 5,
Yeah.
that's an 8-hour event. You could easily have 2 events on a Saturday if yoga is only an hour,
That's right.
and you had something, a
Right.
wedding that
That
night.
you need to determine, you need the flexibility to determine the length of time between events.
Yeah, no,
And-
length and impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
length and
Yeah.
impact.
That's
So
what I've
that-
been trying to
Because you've
reserve.
gotta have staff. You're gonna have to have staff, especially if it's on a weekend.
Yeah, no, and I think, I mean, to be honest, I think we've been doing a good
I mean,
job.
that would be very simple. Forget the number.
Carol, do we prohibit smoking in the park? Yes. We do. I stand corrected. I stand corrected.
Bye, Ann. I know you gotta go. Take me with you.
I really think that we should.
You're not supposed to ride a bike in the park either, because bikes as far as
Oh, I know you're paying attention. There you go.
I sit there and do jigsaw puzzles, you know,
We need to check on the fire.
I said I sit there and do jigsaw puzzles, it's kind of a similar, I do them on my computer, I can do them on my computer. Ah.
I think, for obvious reasons, we would object to that.
Oh, no, it was preordained.
And I would
For the
rather
street
have
cleaning,
seen
if
the
we should go ahead.
usage fee for me is
'Cause we
wear
have
and
to
tear
set a
reduced to
date.
150
You know
than
your rules
do a,
that say you
an
have
annual,
to.
because that's not reflecting to me the wear and tear.
Okay.
I said, because at
30
some point you
days,
just have to
30
say
days.
enough is enough.
But that's,
Preliminary
I
assessment.
did say something.
we would have had 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, because we're asking just for the
And other
preliminary
people don't
resolution,
want
and then you
any
have
of
to have
that
a
usage
hearing
in
to
there.
adopt
So,
the
you know,
assessment
you're balancing
resolution.
completely
And it
different
says
opinions.
10 weeks
That's
from.
the problem with
It says,
every
in
issue.
order to set a time and place for the public hearing on all matters regarding the preliminary resolution, which we're asking for tonight, you cannot have a hearing no earlier than 3 weeks nor later than 10 weeks from the date of the adoption of the preliminary resolution. No, I just want you to be aware, because they're gonna ask. So how many weeks is that? Well, they're gonna ask today. Bet you a quarter.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, not surprised.
I know, but they're gonna say, so when is this gonna happen? What's the timetable? When are we gonna pay?
Oh, don't start swearing over there.
Oh,
Potty mouth.
this is the quietest time during these meetings. I can't get her to talk. Because of the advertising. The advertising. No. You already got beat up for that once.
What's next on the agenda?
Oh. The sale of junk.
By the way, I did have it.
Well, I just gave you the dark one, not the pretty one, not the color one.
I had the pretty one. So nothing on the budget we're talking about.
Well, this is budget related.
I asked you one question. Just for me to know.
The fellow is talking to Hiram.
You know, I see the budget, I read it, I went through it, it doesn't have certain elements on it, sidewalks, roof. pick up the garbage, leaf and limb. I understand, but why don't we have a total number there? This is what's instead of being at 81%, we're really truly not there because we didn't take all those items out of the budget yet. So we're more like 65.
Well, wait, the audit. What the audit of the
Right.
budget is from last year to this July 30th.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do with our ongoing
Okay.
fiscal year. So don't confuse,
One or the other.
yes,
Okay.
they're two separate years.
So that audit's done and over with, and we're at 81%.
Yes.
Okay.
As of June 30th.
Right, June 30th. So that's going to happen after June 30th to now is this budget coming in now. And that audit won't be completed
So
until.
next year. So is that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know, Rich confuses that too. Because he focuses on that percent, but that's percent as of June 30th, not today.
I'm still for the sidewalk. I want that done.
Still what?
The sidewalk, I want that done.
We're moving in as fast as the state will let us.
Can we have that done before springtime? I don't want construction there in the middle of
I
summer.
don't either, but well, if, you know, I'll bring it to the council and say, we can't possibly, because it's, you know, 1.7 miles.
I mean, how much can they do per lineal feet per day?
Well, it's permeable concrete, it's a different job. And the thing is, there's so much utility prep in the right of way and removing crap from the encroachments, the driveway.
They just built a duplex over by 38 and 39. Just close to oceanfront. Nice house. But they did the landscaping all the way to the road again. When are we going to stop saying, don't do that? You know,
This project, sidewalk project, is going to let us do that. I don't, that falls under Dustin's domain. He does not have the time. So I'm hoping when I send out all the letters for Main Street improvements, that it'll include that element of engagement. And we can start that project. We just don't have time to do it.
The problem is
I told him, I saw him sweat 2 days in a row. It's very. Yeah, we're talking about you.
I know he did mosquito spraying, but.
He was spraying the other day. Is that
Yeah,
done?
he's training the new guys.
But at 4 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
that's not.
That's why on those days, he's training them. We have 3 new people that, 3 new people with training, and they have to be trained under his license. And, there's a lot into it, going calibration of the juice in the water.
When do I put it on the agenda to have them over 3 times a month?
At the
times a year,
next
rather.
meeting, because this agenda does not have that, at the next meeting, you said you'd like to review that, please add it to the next agenda.
I tell Lisa that?
You say it in the next meeting. You
Next
have to
meeting.
say it in the meeting, when it says additions or changes or, you know, when we go through that.
So, November 6th, I have to do that.
Yes. So make yourself a note. I know you're looking at me, Susan.
Come on,
On
make
the
a note.
6th.
All right, Bob, ready?
I'm here.
Yeah, let's, Carol, can we resume, please?
I got work to do, guys.
Me too.
I want to,
I'm reconvening the October 17th Town Council meeting for Sunset Beach. One of the things that I wanted to do in the interim that came to my attention is I want to move an item of new business up as the next item. It is the setting of the public hearing for the UDO amendment. The planner is here, I mean, not the planner, our planning director is here, and that's the only item he has, and he's not really feeling well, so I would like to, with your permission, move that up.
Can we save you time? If you like. I move we set a public hearing for the planning board recommendation for the UDO amendment for Article 3, Part 7, Building Inspector. Schedule that hearing for November 21st at 9 a.m.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Get well.
They'll feel better.
The next item on the agenda is consideration of approval of a resolution authorizing the sale of property. Everybody has received the resolution in their packet. Is there any anybody have a question of Bonnie with regard to the proposed resolution? None appearing? Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Bonnie. The next item is consideration of probable cost estimates for North Shore Drive Extension and Cobia Street paving project and authorization to proceed. Everybody has received a copy of the memo dated October, for today's date with regard to the street paving of these two streets. Does anybody have any questions of Dustin?
No, just a comment. I did speak to some of the property owners who thought this was reasonable, not everybody. My neighbor spoke to a fellow named Curtis Duke, who apparently had 16 lots. He sold some, he's down to 11 lots. He thought the prices were reasonable. And all we're doing now is having them proceed. We have still not, in fact,
Fixed
committed.
the price.
That's
And
correct.
we haven't fixed the price either.
Yeah.
It's just
It's an estimate. So I move we proceed with the Cobia Street North Shore Drive Extension project.
I have one question. I just want to confirm that the 100% assessment to the property owners is what, that's a legislative decision, is what the council would like.
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
All right, well,
Well,
no.
the motion,
No.
the motion would include to proceed with it at a, and include 100% assessment of whatever the final amount
That's
is.
the one we're gonna have a final number.
You put it out for bids?
Is that going out for bids?
There's a lot of things that you have to
Yes.
do. There's a preliminary resolution, which we'll bring back to you, and then there has to be a public hearing.
Yep.
And by that time, we'll have, you won't get the exact amount until the project is
Yes,
completed because of possible change
But
orders.
we'll have some bids in?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
I mean, if I were a homeowner, would I expect a bill, let's say approximately $2,300? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and, oh, that's another
But it could
question.
go,
It could be a
It could
little
go
less,
lower,
a
it
little
could
more.
go
yeah,
higher.
it could go a little
It
higher.
cost us more than that to do
Yeah.
the cul-de-sac that we
And
had.
I have a second question. I'm sorry, I forgot. This is going to be one billing to the property owners. Are you okay with that?
One billion, in
Yes.
other words, no payments.
Yes, one bill,
one
not
billing.
over time, not with interest.
Right.
How have we done it before? Have we done any type of annual payments or any kind of fee schedule before?
Underground utility, which, yeah, I don't recommend it.
How much time do we give the citizen to pay the bill? It's not due in 30 days, is it?
No, it's part of their property tax. You can correct me if you wish to, and it'll be part of the lien on their so when they get their tax bill the following year, it
Okay.
should be included
So
on
they
there.
got a significant, many
They-
months.
They have
Okay.
sufficient time to.
Okay. One of the, for council's edification, a lot of times asphalt paving bids are per ton of asphalt. It depends on how much,
The whole,
yeah,
How much the
it
material
depends,
is.
and it's per gallon
is
of
may-
tack coat.
Which
Yeah.
is maybe why it costs me more
Yeah.
on the small cul-de-sac.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
mobilization
Absolutely.
fee.
That's why speed bumps are so big, because they're paid for by ton.
gotcha.
And
I have one more question. I apologize. We did the estimate based on an overall project or two projects, obviously because Cobia and North Shore Extension have different lengths, so they generate different costs. What I shared with you was separate as two projects, separate projects, even though they'll be bid together. We got the cost estimates for each side of the project. Does that
Yes.
make
So
sense?
We
if we
understand.
wanted to, we could say make that one project?
Well,
I know, I think Susan just wants us to understand that it would be bid as one,
Yeah.
for one price, but it's actually two separate projects.
It's actually two separate.
yes.
Is that legally required, or could we?
No,
make it one
we
project?
wanted to be fair in the application. There was about a $200 difference
Difference, yeah.
between the Cobia estimate and the North Shore Extension
Right.
estimate.
Would it be fair? It should be one price that everybody splits. The people on North Shore are driving through Covia to get to North Shore.
Well-
They're driving on the same
Come on.
It's
come on.
two
They
separate,
can't get to their street without going
well,
down
it's
Covia.
two separate petitions.
Well, we've got,
so-
but you've got a
All
state
right.
statute you have to deal
So
with.
that's what I said, is that, do we legally have to split it
It's
up?
two
you-
separate
yeah, in my
petitions. Let's
opinion,
keep it
yes,
separate.
you've got a
I would-
state statute that says
I
it's gotta be
recommend
done
that.
in a
Okay.
certain way.
Done.
I recommend
That's the
that.
answer.
All right, now, what we're doing is we're proceeding with it, getting bids, by this motion. We're proceeding with it, we're getting bids, we're establishing,
No, right now, well, we'll bring back the preliminary resolution for you.
So all we're doing is telling you to bring back a
Yeah,
preliminary.
and we'll make
resolution.
all the preparations for the bid process.
Okay, and the allocation, we haven't done, we're not doing it. The allocation of the cost of the property.
Not until the
Okay.
projects are completed.
Okay, those were just questions for your resolution.
And Dustin, we're looking to finish this before the springtime, correct?
Well,
That's the motivation.
Well,
We're gonna make
motivate.
every effort. If we can't, we'll do it in the fall. It's one or the other.
Yes.
All right, I just want to make sure that everybody understands, we're just directing you, that this vote directs you to go and prepare that resolution.
Yes,
Understood.
we're requesting, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item on the agenda is consideration of reappointment ABC Board term expiration of November 2017.
How many members current are, with Betty,
He's retired.
I know, but with her, how many are currently on the board? With her resignation, are we gonna have a vacancy? We went back to 3. There is no vacancy. I move we reappoint Herb Tinger to the ABC board.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the next is budget amendment discussion concerning how the fire fee system works, apply council flexibility concerning the use of fire fees and impact of increase for Sunset Beach Fire Department personnel, additional equipment needs, or building maintenance repairs. We have, this has been before us, let me
This
go
is
back
the-
a step.
This is the third time.
Yeah, I don't, it's, the term has been repeated because it's been on prior agendas. I don't intend to go over fire district fees and how they're generated or anything like that. I think we all understand that. What we're really addressing, and I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong by anybody, the issue that we're really looking at here is additional personnel for the fire department. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. We received Kevin's report, which was for the August 7th meeting, on his request for 4 additional people. Does anybody have any specific questions of Kevin?
What level would they be? What rating or what level would they be? What category? They coming in as basic firemen?
Yes.
Kevin, did you know this at the beginning of the budget year that you needed 4 more guys?
Yes.
And why did we,
We
spend
did.
all that money on?
We did discuss it, and it was, we were gonna waiting, the thing that we said, we were gonna wait until we saw what happened with the fire fees. That legislation had not passed by the time we'd finished
I
the
remember
budget. And that's the reason we didn't, but I did ask for 6 individuals.
6.
6.
Mr. Mayor, I don't want to get into a major philosophical discussion, but I just recently gave you a memo today dated October 17th, and it's my review of, and with a little help from Ms. Bonney, of my interpretation of what the audit is. And this $240,000 that we are now generating, and I think Carol calculated before and she was correct, it's about a 1.5% increase in our tax rate. Our tax rate is 16 cents.
Not a percent increase, 1.5 cents.
That's what I said.
I'm sorry, did I
Well,
thought it was
all right.
Come on.
percentage.
Carol.
You said percentage?
Yes.
You mean cents?
Cents. Now, this is going to add additional fixed costs to our budget. And what we should be focusing on is somehow reducing our fixed cost. When we had, in my own experience in the working profession, when we had issues like this, we consolidated to ensure that we had the proper staffing to listen to and monitor our radar sites.
I mean, you and I have discussed this consolidation. What do I do on a day like today? I mean, you know, I've told you over the past, I rely
Kevin.
on part-time staff. I don't have that today. They didn't show up this morning. Right
Kevin.
now, we're running short.
Kevin, I have it,
So,
I understand. You have approximately 10 volunteer firefighters.
right about,
Then
10.
should we be hiring more?
well, volunteers.
We have 2 fire
we-
stations.
You don't
I have
hire
a volunteer
volunteers.
right now, one of my 10, that's unable to respond. That's the problem with volunteers. They have
I
other
understand that.
responsibilities.
I understand that, but we have 14 full-time fire staff.
Actually, we have
14
12,
full-time fire staff.
12 and 2
12.
chiefs.
We have a town of a population for nearly 10 months a year at 3,800, and it may be a little more because of the fire district.
It's a lot
Okay.
more because of the fire
Yeah,
district.
I understand that. But the point that I'm trying to make, we're still getting fire fees, even if Fire Station 2 was converted into a substation. You told me earlier that we still get the fire fees from Ocean Ridge. What I'm trying to say is,
And what I'm trying,
does the
and what we've
additional
argued
staff
this,
fit the justification? See, that's what I'm having a business problem with. I know the responsibility of government is to serve and protect.
you
but I'm-
do realize if the station out there closes, that the response to those areas will be over 6 miles from the current station, that, Station 1. It's over 6 miles to get to Ocean Ridge.
Kevin,
And it's
we've got-
those,
I understand, but we've got Calabash, Grisatown, Ocean Isle, and Sunset Beach. And we also have medical facilities in Calabash and right next to the fire station number 1. Okay, and I'm just trying to understand all of this.
you do realize there's hardly anybody at those medical facilities. Stop in there and see if anybody answers the door. They're as busy as we are. They're understaffed as well. I mean, the other day, Miss Scott rode right by and saw us in the parking lot. It took that ambulance 15 minutes to get to us. That car pulled up
Yeah.
with heart issues. We waited for 15
Well,
minutes for that ambulance to show up.
I'm looking at things globally, Kevin, so I don't want to be good cop,
You want to
bad
go
cop.
global, you know,
No,
we're
no,
very
no.
fortunate to
I'm
have
going
10
global.
volunteers, because volunteerism is dying across
I'm
America.
going
In every
global.
aspect, not just the fire service.
I'm trying to measure the impact on this related to other events in our budget. And based on the audit report, to me, the audit report was a warning alarm, because we're only about 6 percentage points above our 75% savings policy.
Well, I would refer that to.
No, I understand that.
Because I don't,
No, yeah,
Actually,
well,
Rich,
I'm
that's
not-
not a correct statement. We
I have
discussed
read
that.
it, and I think that that was skewed a little bit, because I didn't read that when I read the audit
Yeah,
report.
well, listen, we have a bunch of expenses that are still outstanding and committed that are not reflected in the budget.
Look,
And I'll give you some. The $3 million stormwater program that has to be scheduled and studied and
It was
financed.
1.77 million.
Rich, public safety should be taken care of before
I understand,
budget
Carol.
reductions. So I
Well,
think we ought to limit our
define-
discussion to public safety. I've had a problem with additions because I didn't think they were necessary. However, I'm going to say, that you've got a new council coming in. This has been a very difficult issue. My position has been clear for as long as I've been on council. However, I don't think it's appropriate now. I would like to defer this issue until a new council is elected and let them decide this.
I think it's our responsibility to address the issue and come up with a recommendation. And
John,
I go in favor of,
Not in favor.
yeah, I go in favor of providing the personnel that's needed to adequately man our fire department and provide the fire services and safety and protection that we as a community are expecting.
John,
all
John,
want
no,
that.
John, how much is that gonna cost the taxpayers per
No,
hundred?
we all want that, but the question is, do we need more people? We all want the fire department manned.
And the expert in the room says yes.
Because he's looking at, is this based on the 2 in, 2 out thing and responding to fires?
This is based on the fact that today we have 3 firemen, period. That's all you have coming right now. And God forbid one of those gets sick, and you'll be down to 2 guys covering the entire town, plus our mutual aid responsibilities. And this is the issue I'm dealing with every day. It's vacations. Look, we have longevity here, you know,
I
and
hear you. Believe
and
me,
I
hear you.
can't rely on part-time. I had a part-timer lined up today. He
Listen,
didn't show this
The
morning.
2 in, 2 out thing, clearly, small departments are not required to hire more people in order to fulfill that goal. And we have enough fire departments and corresponding vehicles, hopefully, to service most fires with 2 in, 2 out. So
The
it's
problem is that we
putting that-
don't.
Putting that aside, and you and I have a disagreement.
We have.
Hang on, putting that
Okay.
aside, now I'm looking at whether or not you have sufficient staffing to keep the 2 fire stations open. Unlike Rich, I have no interest in closing the 2nd fire station. Okay? I understand the response times. I've driven those areas. I know how long it takes. Those minutes can be crucial, and I do appreciate that. So now what I'm trying to look at is what you need to keep your current staffing useful. And if you're saying, he's going to hate what I'm saying, if you're saying that you don't have enough people to staff because people are out on vacation or they don't show up, then I would entertain the notion of hiring maybe 1 or 2 additional people, not more than that, to try and help with that staffing crunch when when somebody
But
doesn't
that's
show
the
up.
problem. Today, it's shift work. One guy doesn't help with the other 2 shifts.
But don't you have people scheduled for the other 2 shifts?
Yeah, but I have 40 people on my roster. 17 of those are part-time staff. I've already had to let go 4 or 5, and they don't even know they've let go because they stopped showing up. Because, you know, that's,
Whether it's
they
part-time or volunteers?
They were part-time, and they got other jobs, and they have
So
just.
aren't you going to rehire?
I'm trying to. I mean, I just had a hiring where we hired to fill an open position that we had, and nobody was interested in taking part-time. They all wanted to go full-time. That's their goal, is to get on.
Why do we have so many part-time and not full-time?
Why, we don't have that many part-time anymore, because they're going to full-time departments. Calabash,
Okay, why don't we take 2 part-time positions and convert it to a full-time position? I mean, I don't,
Part-timers only get paid if they're here. in
yeah,
the shift.
they don't get benefits, they don't
Yeah,
get
they're not
the
on
whole 9
salary.
yards.
That doesn't make, that's
But
not logical.
you can fix that part of it. I don't have any problem. You know, plain benefits, that's not an issue for me. I think people should earn benefits. I mean, I think that's a good thing, particularly in your business.
The
Yeah,
minimum.
I'm giving you something.
I-
I'm sitting
I-
here giving you something.
The minimum would be 3. That would put an extra person on each shift. That's the, you know, I mean, if I go 2, it kind of throws things out of whack.
But you could still do 2 and continue with your part-time to fill in on the 3rd. It just wouldn't be as much pressure on you to find those
Right
people.
now, I mean, like I said, as soon as I'm out of here, I'm the backup guy.
I'm
But
now
Kevin,
gonna shut up.
Kevin, I have a problem with all the money we spent this year on the fire department, a lot of money. Why didn't you prioritize it?
What did we spend?
You got a compressor, you got a truck, you got
Yeah,
a new
well,
car.
those are things that wear out.
But
Those
you
are
got
things
a-
that are gonna have
your
to be
tr-
replaced.
You tell me your truck couldn't last another year and get another
The truck we
fireman?
replaced?
Your truck,
My truck.
yes.
My truck is.
I sold the
you know,
truck, but
it's-
couldn't it last another, I'm just thinking,
80,000
I'd rather have a man there than a new truck for you. And that's where my problem lies. I think you managed the situation incorrect. I think we should have had firemen over equipment sometimes.
I'm following
That's
a
your budget
plan that
issue
we
next
put
year.
together for replacement of vehicles, and I'm trying to stick to that plan. at your request that we put it together.
The,
So
the
the
point-
apparatus replacement
the
is
point,
something
the
we
point is
put
the
together.
following.
and
The
I'm
reason
trying-
why we're spending this money, because we got extra money from the fire fee.
That's
Because
not,
this was not a hot
that is
button
not-
issue.
No, no,
That
no,
is
no.
not the point.
I'd
This-
like to correct
that
you
is
there.
not the point.
I asked before we even knew we were getting a fire fee increase.
You know what, at this point, that's immaterial. He's been asking, the reasons for asking, I don't necessarily agree with your initial reasons. This is a different problem and a different issue which should get addressed, which is, if you can't find part-time people and you're having trouble doing minimal staffing of these departments, we should be doing something to correct that. Maybe the answer is to convert some of your part-time people into full-time employees, even though it's going to cost more.
Bonnie, I have a
Your
question.
fire fees can cover that additional cost.
Bonnie, I
that's
have a
not-
question. What's this gonna do, 3 people to the budget?
What was the question? I didn't know.
280,000.
what does it gonna mean to add 3 people to the budget? That was Mark's question.
It's about
We've got,
$175,000.
well,
Can't
we've
we
got,
convert some
Let
part-time
Bonnie,
people to
let Bonnie finish, Carol.
That's not-
each person is 36.9 fringe benefits with their pay and fringe benefits. So we've got there, we had figured, based on Kevin's proposal, that adding 4 employees, 4 firefighters would be 212,500 plus additional equipment, et cetera, another 10,000. So that would be 222,500. We were getting 240, which means that 15, that
But
additional.
every year, they get promotions and increases, and hopefully, because 36,000 is not very much money to start.
So the fire
Sure.
fee covers the cost of those 3 firemen, basically.
That was the intent.
Well, no.
Well, no, the
increase in the fire district fees was pulled out of the air by the county commissioners.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about now that we have the 240,000 that we are getting from the additional fire fee, okay?
You're both
now
right.
Now we're using that to hire more people.
Well, that would be a
That's the
source to do
application.
it.
That would
be
That would
his
be a
goal.
source to, but,
That was the argument to get the increase.
But the essence of the argument is that he's been arguing for additional 6 people, what I understand, for a long time. Had nothing to do with increase in fire district fees.
So,
The-
Bonnie, my question is it gonna increase the budget if we offset it with the fire fees?
It's
and
going
the
to increase
taxpa-
it could increase the taxes almost
It'll-
2 cents. When you load it up,
No,
It-
your taxes
Let
have already
Bonnie
gone
speak.
up
Let me
because the
point
fire
out-
fees have already been charged to you in your last property tax bill. It's already gone up.
Bonnie,
We're
answer-
already
This is
paying-
Answer
something
the
you all
question.
haven't, actually, this hasn't come up before, but the 240,000 is what we're getting from the county. It's not money, it is ultimately money, partially money that we're getting from people who live here, but it's also people who, we're getting it from people who live in our ETJ.
Right.
Who are not paying.
In our fire district.
In our fire, correct.
Which is
In our
broader.
fire district, which is a larger subset.
larger area.
It's a larger area. So the $240,000 we're getting regardless of what we do with it.
Can I make a suggestion? Go back and look at your numbers. If you were authorized to hire 2 more people, 2 people, what part-time people could you get rid of? Would you not then hire? I mean, how?
Part-time person
how-
doesn't cost us any money unless they're working though, Carol.
But
It's-
it
it-
does
it's-
cost
it's-
us money
well-
when they're working.
And it does, but they're only making
what, $10 an hour?
$12 an hour.
$12 an hour compared to a.
And that's another issue that I've had with the
But
$12.
you said we have 10 people now. Could you, if we hired 2 full-time people, could you reduce that to 6?
It would definitely reduce, but if I went to 3, it would reduce
Seems to
even
me that
more.
you have to
but-
go hand in hand.
Chief, can I make a comment, please? Do you mind?
Yes.
If you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 part-time people, then certainly that's another resource that the town uses when they're here and on duty. What the chief isn't saying is that if you were to add, and you're saying add 2 more full-time, that helps shift, let's say, for example, A and B, but it doesn't help shift C. What's extremely important for the continuity of fire suppression, for people acting as a team, is to work with the same people every day. You train with them, you work with them, you sleep with them, you eat with them, you do all kinds of things with them so that when you're responding at a fire scene, you are a team. Every time there's a part-time person, it isn't the same as working with your own team member. To not add 3 people like the chief is asking for hurts the effectiveness of each of those shifts in responding to your house fire
Well, then
or
I
to your
would
medical
delete
call.
9 part-time people. I mean, I wouldn't have the part-time people. We're
No.
going to give you 3 full-time.
Part-time people don't equate to the same
let me go back
I
a step.
understand they don't equate, but I
efficiency
don't want
as
both.
part-time people.
But you gotta understand where he's coming from. Those part-time people, when they're not working for us, we don't see them. We
But
don't,
when
they're
they
not
are
around.
working for you and you have another person on that shift, that's more staffing than you need, right?
Well,
You need the
I
extra
don't bring
staffing
in,
'cause they're not
No,
showing
we
up.
only bring in a part-timer if somebody's missing.
All right, so
So
you will
they
need-
fill an open
you
spot
will
is what
need
they're doing.
fewer part-time people if you have an extra
Oh,
1,
definitely.
2, or 3 full-time
Right.
people.
But
Yeah,
if
but
I
it
could-
doesn't make any difference on the budgeting.
Wait, if I could, yeah, that's correct, because the full-time, the part-time people are not permanent employees.
No.
Their only responsibility is when they're called upon to come in and fill a spot.
But they don't
And
get,
that's-
they don't get benefits.
And that's
so we
the
in fact
only,
do
that's the only
save money
financial exposure
for a
the town
part-timer.
has, is when they're called in to fill a spot.
What
Exactly.
I don't want you to see is calling in full-time people and then also calling in the part-time people.
Well, I mean, and we don't do that. We don't have the full-time and part-time.
Well, I don't know, you said you want 6 more people, are you gonna use the part-time people to get you up to the 6 people?
And
That's
you
a
know,
concern.
and you know what? When I do have to use them is when we have special events. You know, but only special events. When we have something going on at the park or the 5K run, I have to bring in some extra people because we have other responsibilities
Right,
plus
if-
the
if
race.
something is going on at the
But we
park,
charge for those events,
Let-
so we get our money back.
that's what I'm, okay.
That's where we do, but you'll see
And
me
then-
bring in
so there
extra
will-
staffing. So it's a
would be
wash.
net- It would be a wash.
Yes. But that's where we do work that. And then
If-
sometimes, you know,
If I can make an observation, my position on this and the way I see it is that from the information that has been presented,
Hey, you're gonna win.
the information that I've been presented, there is a need. There's no
You're gonna
question there
win.
is a need.
you're gonna win. Everybody else is gonna win.
I'm saying that facetiously only because we've had this discussion so
I
many
know.
times. Okay, so.
There's been a 52%, 52.4% increase in calls from 2011 to 2016. There's 52.4 with the same number of full-time employees.
But that's not fire. 95%.
I understand it, but if they're,
But
but
say
if,
that.
but if
It
they're at,
doesn't, it
but if
doesn't
they're at,
matter,
wait,
fire or not.
if they're at
If
a
you've gone to a
EMT call,
cardiac
they're not
arrest,
available to
it
go to
takes
fire.
6 people.
Why don't we cut this whole conversation short and say, I move that we permit,
I want to hear what Bonnie has to say.
well, let me make my motion and then
No,
we
no,
can
no.
still discuss it.
I want to hear Bonnie, please. Please.
Up to now, we know that we are going to receive that money. We get it every quarter. We haven't received it yet. By the end of the year, we will have received an additional $240,000. Normally, when you receive money, you have to do a budget amendment. And I haven't presented a budget amendment because the corresponding, we have the revenue, we know that. This discussion concerns the expenditures. So what you decide today, which is why I get to go before your motion, Carol, just to say this, is that I will need to come back to you with a budget amendment.
So why
And
don't you do that?
And I will do that,
additional
but I do want to just,
full-time.
yes, and I do want to say, normally, with a budget amendment, like what you all talked about earlier, where the money comes from is out of the fund balance. In this case, it is not coming from the fund balance, it's coming from the county, Brunswick County. There's no tax increase, we have 240,000 coming in, and you all have to say how we're gonna spend that 240,000. No tax increase.
The
money in.
amendment, the budget amendment is required because when we adopted the budget, we didn't account for the $240,000.
Correct,
It's not in the current budget.
that's correct.
Okay.
And hopefully it'll show up as additional.
And if I were you,
so-
remember I told you this once before, when you get the answer you want, you shut up and you move away.
So,
There's a
how about
lot
a
more,
motion?
there's a lot more I wanted to say on this, but I'm not. Carol, you wanted to make a motion?
Well, I think we're giving him a general direction to come back with a budget amendment. right?
Well, don't we have to approve the positions before we give you guidance to give us a? Yeah. Yeah.
requires you decide how you're going to.
So I move that we approve 3 additional firemen. That's the number, right? For 240?
Full-time.
4.
Full-time with benefits and uniforms.
That's
To
4
come
people
out
or
of
3
the
people?
increased fire fees.
4 additional firemen.
Wait a minute, I
No.
just said 3.
Well, I move we approve 4 additional firemen to cover the fire fees that have come in, and authorize you to do the budget resolution, or change.
Oh, that's the motion. Any discussion on the motion? And appearing, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I move we approve 3 additional fire.
I didn't vote because I think we've stepped on our procedural foot here. Carol was in the process of making a motion, and
That's okay, I don't care, it doesn't matter. It's
and
not
that's the only
important.
reason I didn't vote
Okay,
here.
well,
It's,
That motion, whether, regardless of how you would vote.
when I heard the chief say 3 and Carol say 3, I was 3.
I move we approve the addition of 3 full-time firefighters with benefits, funds to come out of the increase in fire fees.
Discussion?
Why is it that every time we get a little extra money, we feel like we need to spend it?
This has nothing to do with extra money, this has to do with need, and that's
I,
how I
that's,
started looking
you're
at the issue.
rationalizing, and I disagree with that, and I would like to see the data to present that need.
Well,
I would like to see it.
Rich,
think
in
And
that-
this,
the,
I think
this
that's out of
council
order.
for years has rationalized and never had the data to look at and study.
if I can address what you just said, Councilman Serrato, the memo that the chief submitted for the meeting date of August 7th sets forth 1, 2, 3 pages of description and explanation of the need. One of my concerns is that he's identified issues that, with understaffing, that if we ignore, we could have substantial problems. If you, and that's where I got my 52.4% increased number from, was from his report. He's submitted that information. Now, you can disagree with it, or say that it's unreliable, or, but I don't think you can just totally disregard it.
Bob, from a business point of view, we've got a small rural beach town, and we're supporting 2 fire stations. I'm sorry, I came from a very affluent community that had 50,000 people in 1 fire station, and it was twice the size of Sunset Beach. Explain this to me.
Yeah, I could explain till I'm blue in the face, you're not gonna accept it.
Staffing of 8.
We have a motion, Carol, you made the motion? Any other discussion?
I just have a problem. If we agree on 3 firemen, and Bonnie comes back with an amendment and we don't like it, can we rescind it?
Well, we're creating 3 positions is what we're doing.
But, you know, a month
Why
from now,
can't you just do an analysis so that we can see what the data is, the financial data is, before we have to approve and,
Can we ask that
a
for
motion
Susan?
to hire more people?
say, we'd like to have Bonnie do the analysis prior to accepting 3 new firemen. I would like to see that. Just to know
Mark, be specific, analysis of what?
do you want?
on the cost,
That-
on the budget, what's gonna, you know.
Well, she's already
She's already,
given
she
us,
just told us.
I know she did.
Well,
But we've been told things before, John, and it comes back at the very end, it costs us a lot more than what they say at the beginning. So I want to know.
I want to see the cost difference if we reduce.
I think she can do it while she's at the podium.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's, you can bank on this. It's 36,900 per employee plus 2,500 per employee. So the original analysis was taking those numbers, multiplying by 4. So we just instead take those numbers and multiply by 3. And we can specify in the budget amendment those costs, exactly those costs. It won't change. The one remaining question is, what do you do with the amount that, of the 240,000 that is not allocated?
Put it back in the general fund.
You can do a budget amendment to reduce the amount coming from the general fund to the fire department by that amount. It's not taking anything out of the fire fees,
Okay.
right?
No,
All right.
yeah,
There's your answer. You
if we
just
didn't do
missed it.
anything, we'd have to do something with the $242,000 if we
Right.
didn't do anything. You have
Well,
to put
the-
it in a slot someplace.
Well, it has to match. So the budget, even though we know we're getting, it's actually 238,000, not 240.
Wow.
So we know we're getting 238,000. We're going to spend, well, no, for 3 people. We're going to spend up to 3 people of that. And the additional amount of money will go,
Do a budget amendment to
Mhm.
reduce the money from the general fund to the fire department by that amount of money, put it back in the general fund.
it doesn't actually work that way, but that's essentially what it is. Yeah, we never actually made that division. So anyway, is that sufficient?
So what else do you, I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, Kevin, again, I'm going back to the very beginning. I just think that you should have been clearer to us before we bought all this new equipment, that we needed more firemen, and I would have, looked at these equipment purchases differently.
In all fairness to him, he's been pretty consistent on his request for more people every single budget. And it's been turned
Every
down.
budget since
Every
I've made
budget. That is,
chief.
I will give you that. And that's where we butted heads.
I want to be clear with the chief. The proposal or the background that you provided for agenda item 7C back on August 7th did list 4 personnel. I always had a question about how does 4 additional personnel fit in with 3 shifts, but I'm not asking that question now.
Well,
Is adding 3 more full-time staff to the fire department going to come close to achieving your goal of a higher degree of safety in fire suppression and medical calls for our citizens?
Right now, I need 6 is the magic number. That is the magic number.
But 3 allows you to
3
add
is
1
gonna
to each
put
more
me,
shift.
is gonna put me a little bit ahead of the game, but it's not
Is-
gonna put me where we need to be.
Councilman Larkin's question wasn't, does it satisfy you? Is he said, will it move you towards?
Yes, it's moving in the right direction. I'll take it.
So Kevin, next year you're gonna ask for another 3.
Every year.
Susan?
It's like clockwork.
I think a better, sorry, Kevin. I think the better answer to your question, Pete, is it's a Band-Aid and will assist, but it will not address the entire public safety issue in fire suppression and medical response.
All right, we have Carol's motion, we've had discussion. Everybody understand what the
I really
motion is?
don't like it coming from me, but
Well,
so be it.
that's all right.
Mr. Mayor,
You voted mine down, so.
you know, the whole evolution of the second fire station, the second fire station was planned back in early 2000.
What, does that have anything to do with
Yes,
our
it does.
topic?
And it was built and planned because there would be a Jaguar's lair and the whole north side of Sunset Beach would be developed.
Have
They
you,
annexed,
have you driven out? to
they
Sunset Beach?
annexed Windfall and Sandpiper Bay. Then somehow we had this need that we needed fire protection on the north side. We've had one major fire on the north side. It happened, I want to say 5 years ago. While they were planning and construction the second fire station, there was no water pressure in the north end of the island, or the north end of the town. Carol Scott and I went over, our former department head or town administrator, to go over to the county and get the second water line for the island, and they fixed the poor water pressure. The fire station was marketed as, oh, look at the big fire we had, and if we had a second fire station, the unit would have never burned down. That's not true. And we're continuing to wasting money and spending money to have 2 full-time, fully staffed fire stations within a half a mile.
I think,
They are
It
within
lacks
half a mile.
business logic.
Councilman Serrato,
Actually,
I
it's
don't
more
think,
than- It's about 3 miles?
I
3.2, I
Wait,
think is the
wait,
exact.
I think, Councilman Serrato, I think everybody realizes what your position is with regard to the second fire station and your position relative to the thing that we're presently considering. I think that's perfectly clear. I want to call the question on the motion. All those in favor of creating the 3 full-time fire positions?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against?
Nay.
All right, the ayes have it. The,
Thank you.
and now we're gonna receive, we're gonna have to have a budget amendment, presented at our next meeting or subsequent meeting. The next item on the agenda is, the, authorization for town council, town clerk to advertise Fireman's Relief Fund board member for term expiring January 2018.
So moved.
All, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next item is to review the upcoming agenda items.
You're adding in the audit report on November 6th. And the one thing that's not on here that disappeared,
Six.
when an item comes off, upcoming agenda, it shouldn't come off. You can put it down there, but not have a date in there. Oh, I'm sorry, you know, I take that back. It is in there. I just wasn't using words that I... Okay, the beach season update, why is that 11, I would put that on 11/6. It should have been done in October. In view of Rich's absence too, let's move that to 11/6. Is that okay?
Susan?
It wasn't today because we're missing.
Yes, and I will have to check to see if both of them, if
If you
Richard will be
can.
here, yes.
Move it to 11, if you can, move it to 11/6.
We'll look into it.
Also, Bob, I'd like to add to the agenda for that, for the 6th, that we do maintenance on the absent lots more than, we do it twice a year now. I'd like to add-
Discussion and possible action
Bush hogging, right?
Yeah, cleaning the vacant lot.
on vacant lots.
It is required twice a year.
But
No, he wants to raise it, increase
I'd
it.
like to do it 3, Peter, only because spring, summer, fall. So if you do it in the summertime, you've got that grass this high for 6 months into spring again. So 3 times a year seems a little bit better.
I thought you said you wanted it done twice, so that's.
Are we gonna have, Susan, are we gonna have the budget amendment for that month, that week, that too, on what we just did? For the fire, yeah. Okay.
And we hope to have the resolution, the preliminary resolution for Cobia and North Shore Extension to you by the first meeting in November also. But I'm looking at my clerk to make sure that's possible.
North Shore paving, 11/6.
Yeah, it's a preliminary resolution.
Okay.
If I can say something. I don't know if one would classify these issues that we're putting down on the 6th critical or not. But, you know, we're a lame duck council. The 2 members are not going to be here after the 6th, for the most part. And are we making any decisions? And Carol raised this issue just recently. Are we making any decisions that are critical that maybe the new council should make?
Mowing vacant lots, I don't think that's.
I think
critical.
Rich,
Overall,
I think
I
we're,
don't care about
I think we're okay.
bush hogging.
Well, that's the only one that
I
would
think we're
require-
okay. There is nothing that it should be that,
Well, what about the fireman issue?
That's a budget amendment.
It's a budget amendment.
something you
We
can
already
always
approved it.
change at the next budget meeting too. There's enough attrition where, if you didn't like
I
it, you can do
understand.
something.
I understand that. There are always ways, unfortunately.
I have the audit report, the beach season, the discussion on the vacant lots, the budget amendment, and a resolution for Cobia and North Shore on, as add-ons for November 6th. Anybody have anything else?
Oh, and Chapter 99 special events policy, not Chapter 99, special events
Lisa, we're gonna have the interviews, scheduled between now and, so we can do it on the 6th for the planning board.
Hour from one, the questionnaire completed, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, the add-on, so everybody
Yeah.
understands, that we're gonna have for a final time, hopefully, the
Got it.
special events policy on for the, on the 6th.
Yeah, plus,
Hey, listen, I think we made great progress.
oh, yes, plus we have the auditor coming on the
Yes,
6th.
yes. Susan?
Possibly a closed session evaluation?
Well, yeah, that would be, yeah.
Just want to make
that
sure,
remi-
but that was my segue for you.
That reminds me, I've received from several people the evaluations, the job evaluations, performance evaluations. And from those that I haven't, they've given me their excuses, the dogs ate their homework. That will be for discussion in a closed session on November 6th. So you need to get them to me quickly so that I can compile them. Okay? Nothing further? Oh, I got to open the meeting to the public. Anybody who has comments with regard to the meeting, once again, 3 minutes, if you can limit it to 3 minutes and step forward, state your name and address. Ms. Stanfeka?
Carol Santavica, Forest Drive, Southwest. The $240,000 has already been paid. It's money you've got coming. It's raised by fire fees, and yet you still try to micromanage that fire department to it's right on the edge of its full capabilities. I mean, they've actually been way below the edge of their full capabilities. But finally, we're going to give them 3, which cost $120,000 of the 240. Whatever. It's close. We're talking close here. The next person that dies in a fire is going to say, damn, I wish I had paid that $45 more so we could have had 3 more. They're not going to fight. You don't even collect the $240,000. You didn't have to sit here and put your jobs on the line by raising taxes. But we've got it coming. And why do we need to spend it? If you're going to spend it anywhere, spend it on our protection. We got a lot of old frame homes in this community and a lot of vacant land that sometimes is overgrown. And you want to micromanage the fire department? All you need is a couple good fires, and people will be asking where you put that money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joseph Santavica, 9109 Forest Drive. I have a little problem with how you suggested that you were going to launder the extra money that wouldn't be spent that is being received from the county. She suggested that, oh, if we got money we haven't spent, well, we won't put it in the fire fund. We'll just move it around and we'll put it in some other general fund category and reduce the problem there. My suggestion is, if you got extra money that you haven't spent, that you ought to return it to the taxpayer who paid it. Okay? I mean, to disguise it in some fashion by reducing some burden on some other area in the town, well, okay. The money that you had allocated for that burden, recover, send that back to me. All right, the money that you had budgeted.
I understand what your suggestion is, I want to characterize it, but the issue is, for discussion that the council was discussing to make this clear is, from a municipal accounting and fund accounting perspective, that money has to be accounted for someplace. It's not that the council's creating positions to spend it or anything like that, but there's some place, some category that has to be placed in order for the books to balance. Am I right, Bonnie? And that's what they were discussing. Where is that gonna go? In what account is that gonna go? It's not to create a slush fund or anything like that. And I can understand the cynicism but the fact is that our finance director has got to say, I got to put it in a column someplace.
I can tell you the fund, refunds to taxpayers.
I think what Mr. Santavecchia is saying, that if you don't spend the money, you'll have it, and it'll go back in the general fund or the reserves, and that will give us a surplus when we do the budget so that we can return the money to the taxpayers. That is all legal, and it is all understandable.
The issue, of course, is that we have so many unfunded major projects that having extra money is fleeting at best, because it's going to be going to things like stormwater.
Well, the ultimate.
But the only reason we have extra money is because we didn't fund the fourth fireman.
I think that I can speak for every person on this dais, every council person on this dais, is that whatever, we don't want to unnecessarily burden taxpayers, and that has to be taken into consideration at budgeting time, and will be taken into consideration at budgeting time. And it's not, the intent is not to go out and find some place to spend money, not at all. I think I can speak for everybody here that that's their objective. Anyway, any other comment?
No, I'm just thinking if I have any other comments that I want to make about anything, since most of my time is being used by.
Well, I'm not charging you with that time.
Oh, good. Then I do have a comment about fires in the park during religious ceremonies. Is there an exemption for open fires, like candles, if I have a mass, or if I have some ceremony that requires incense burning?
No, but there are battery candles and other.
So now I want to have candles at my mass. Now I got an increased cost. I got to buy my own candles that don't burn. All right. I doubt that you have any data anywhere that would suggest that there's any possible safety problem that has existed because of candles in that park, or smoking in that park, or cigars in that park. Hadn't been one damn tree burned down because somebody smoked a cigarette. Huh?
Smoking and cigars are a health issue. Open flames.
Not for the town. It's not a health problem for the town.
Sorry, I don't mean to engage you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
You said
Any
a
other
lot,
members
Joe.
of the public? Mr. Nern?
Charlie Nern, 647 Oyster Bay Drive. Public safety is the biggest part of our budget. When I talk to people, and I've talked to a lot of people in the last month, I've heard plenty of people say they wouldn't mind paying 1.5 cents more in their budget to be protected by our police and fire departments. You made a great decision in adding 3 firemen. I have to applaud your working together and using common sense on this. The park fees, when there's no market next year, remember how the vote went.
What
And
are you talking about if there's no farmer's market?
Excuse me.
Rich,
Excuse me.
don't-
I have my
Rich,
3 minutes,
Rich,
and you have
Rich,
an hour.
I am tired
Rich,
of your
Rich,
misinformation.
this is not the opportunity to do that.
Oh, jeez. My
All right,
misinformation?
don't engage, please don't engage.
Yes,
Uh,
you're protecting
when there-
friendships.
No one ever, never discussed.
Rich, Rich,
Cancel the farms.
Mr. Serrato,
Lying.
Don't do that.
Rich.
Don't do that.
Get it.
Don't do that. Fire him. Censor him. That's what the town needs, is censure laws and an ethics law.
all right, Mr. Nern,
Prevent that kind of libelous
all right,
conversation.
Mr. Nern,
I hope his outburst didn't take from my 3 minutes.
no, I'll give you.
Okay. The last thing I was going to say is Sunset at Sunset was such a great success. I just couldn't believe. Every year it gets better and better. And I want to really take my hat off to all those volunteers that put in all those hours to make this town festival such a success. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Ms. Annabecca?
No.
Well-
No, no, no.
One more comment on
No.
Sunset.
Uh, No, well, we're going to have a report from Sunset at Sunset, I assume, in November. And, I mean, there will be an opportunity when they make their presentation in November. It'll be on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's appropriate for the council to apologize for the behavior of the council towards one of our citizens.
They,
And we don't apologize for other people's misconduct. He needs to apologize, not us, seriously.
He's speaking from the podium as a council member. So that's where I make my remark from.
okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.